I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell.
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
I'm back home, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the fantastic Friday edition of Snowman in the Morning. Got a lot to get to, but I want you to follow us online by going to snowmandigitalmedia.com. Look up all of our socials there. The ID you need is SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Like I said, I got a lot to get to this morning. The NBA All-Star break is here. I have a little question about the rules. Get to that in a moment. Scoop Miller will join me to talk all things Maction and all things Big Ten in terms of college hoops. I'll give you a few reasons why you shouldn't sleep on the White Sox. William Morgan will join me to talk about the NBA All-Star Game. Mike Debate will help me put a bow on the 2019, NFL season and get you ready for 2020. Ricky Keeler joins me to talk all things baseball. And my very special guest, Kelsey Nicole Nelson, will join the show for the first time in 2 years. Let's talk NBA All-Star Game, shall we? Now, before I launch into what I'm going to talk about, I know that the NBA is doing a wonderful thing in honoring the memory of one Kobe Bryant. Okay? But there's a new format that they have put together in honoring Kobe Bryant. SBNation.com wrote this. The NBA is changing its format of the 2020 All-Star Game to spice up the competitiveness of the event and honor Kobe Bryant. After years of criticism over the game's fading audience, the leagues made numerous new rules. Here's what's new. The first 3 quarters of the 2020 All-Star Game will have the score reset after each 12-minute period. Team LeBron and Team Giannis will compete to win each frame at a score of 0-0. The winner of each quarter will earn $100,000 for their charity, with ties resulting in the money being added to the following quarter. The score resets after each quarter, but the cumulative total still matters. I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. In the fourth quarter, the team's scores from the first 3 quarters will be added up, and the final score a team needs to reach to win the game will be determined by adding 24 points, Bryant's jersey number, to the highest scores total. There will be no game clock in the final frame. The first team to hit that point total wins. If that was a lot and hard for you to understand, it's because the new format is confusing as hell. Again, this is on SBNation.com, so let's go a step further. They provide this example. Let's start with the beginning of the game. If Team LeBron scores 30 and Team Giannis scores 25 in the first quarter, Team LeBron's charity of choice wins $100,000. In quarter 2, the score resets to 0-0, so Team Giannis could outscore Team LeBron by the same score, 30-25, and they win $100,000 for their charity. In quarter 3, the same thing happens. Let's say Team LeBron outscores Team Giannis 30-25 again. Team LeBron wins $100,000 for charity once again. In the fourth quarter, the score from the first 3 quarters will be added up. In this case, Team LeBron is leading Team Giannis 85-80. Instead of a 12-minute game clock, the teams will play to a score. In this case, we take 85 points as the leading score and add 24 points to honor Bryant. So the first team to 109 points wins the game. I must have looked at this 100 times. I must have read this 100 times. I still don't understand how the hell this is going to bring competitiveness back to the game. So you're putting $100,000 on the line each quarter for the team's favorite charity. You know, that part I actually like. I actually like that part. But you're going to reset the score to 0-0 for the second and the third quarters. But you keep a running score at the table. You keep a running score at the table for the fourth quarter, up until the... I don't get this at all. I don't get this at all. So you're going to reset the score after every quarter. I don't get it. I just have one question and one question only.
I demand to know who wrote this script.
Because I sure as hell didn't write it. I sure as hell didn't write it. You want to honor Kobe Bryant? How about playing as hard as you can on both ends of the floor? You want to honor Kobe Bryant? How about your honorary captains, one wears 2, the other wears 24? You want to honor Kobe Bryant and bring the fans back to the game? How about some competition? Everybody wants to say, oh, it wasn't fair because the West was so stacked. Well, if fans of the East are complaining that the West is so stacked, why don't you beat them? Why don't you play hard? Why don't you just play basketball? I understand that the fans have waned off of this game. I'm going to have Michael Lyle on Friday. I want to talk about this very subject. Can someone please explain to me how the hell this is going to work? Can someone please explain to me how this brings competition back to a game where competition has faded by not circumventing the rules? Because that's what you did. You completely circumvented the rules. You completely revamped a format that for a while worked because the players actually loved playing against each other. I thought that was the whole idea of the All-Star game anyway. Not just the dunks, not just the three-pointers, not just the fancy assists, but you play hard. That you actually play basketball. that you actually have the coaches coach and the players play. Am I missing something here? Again, I pose the question.
I demand to know who wrote this script. I'd like to tell him, but modesty forbids.
That's probably what Adam Silver is saying. That is probably what Adam Silver is saying. I'd like to tell him, but modesty forbids. So modesty also forbids actually playing a game where the teams were identified as East and West. You know, this team captain stuff is getting on my nerve. It's getting on my nerve. These new rules I know are going to drive me batty. These All-Star Game rules are going to drive me absolutely batty. I just don't get it. I don't understand why they are going to... Okay, let me say this. They're going to honor Kobe Bryant. Yes. Absolutely yes. Okay? I get that. And I'm not dismissing it. And I'm glad they are going to honor Kobe Bryant. But you're going to do it like this? You're going to do it completely blowing up the rules? You're going to do it completely and unequivocally, for lack of a better term, messing up the game, messing up the integrity of the game by these rules? Really? Really? You're going to do something like that to honor Kobe Bryant when he was known as the Black Mamba, when his work ethic was celebrated, when his work ethic was that of legend, and this is how you honor Kobe? In an All-Star game? This is how you honor him? Really? This is how you actually plan to honor him. No, not by playing hard, not by actually playing defense, which is where Kobe Bryant excelled, not by putting in the work with your all-star teammates, not by saying, hey, let's go out there and have a competitive game. Let's go out there and not only have fun, but play hard and have a great game. No, none of that. These are the rules you come up with? I have no words. I am really stunned into silence that they're going to do this. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. That's Snowman's take. What's yours? I won't get it. I just don't understand it. I just will not understand it at all. Back after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the program. You heard my thoughts on the rules of the All-Star Game as we continue to get you going here on this episode. Let me welcome back to the program the playmaker, Darnell Solins. He joins me right now. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on, Snowman?
Okay, I've got to pose this question, and I got to pose it now. Who the hell made up the rules to the scoring of this All-Star Game?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I talked about it on the podcast.
You did, and I loved it. Who made this up?
I don't know.
What happened to, if you want to honor Kobe, and I said this on an earlier broadcast, if you want to honor Kobe, play some defense, will you please? In the All-Star game?
We're going to see some defense. I can guarantee you that. We're going to see some defense.
But why?
That's when that fourth quarter hit.
Yeah, I know, when you have to play to a score. Who wrote this script?
Look, you're going to have to do your Daffy Duck version on that one. I don't know. I got it.
Like he said, I demand to know who wrote this script. Because I sure as hell didn't.
To be honest, when I did the podcast yesterday, that's the first time I actually read the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, I know it sounds confusing as hell, but that's what they wanted to do.
What happened to just playing as hard as you can on both ends of the floor to honor Kobe? What happened to just that? Do you have to reset? Do you have to reset the score every quarter?
It's for charity, so I ain't gonna dive into.
I understand that. I understand that. You can still have money for charity at the end of each quarter, but just keep the damn score.
It is what it is. I did my scoring.
I'll move on because we can sit here for about an hour and we'll still never figure it out. All right.
Nobody's going to figure it out.
Hell no. No one's going to figure it out. Okay, let me ask you this. Joel Embiid to Miami. Will it happen or won't it happen?
Ooh.
After the Instagram post that came out where Jimmy Butler said, I know a place where villains are welcome. Will it happen?
I don't see it happen. I don't see Elton Brand getting rid of one of the two stars that he drafted. I don't see it. So you literally tank on purpose to get Joel Embiid.
Yep.
If Joel Embiid doesn't play a significant amount of years in Philly, the process was a failure.
The process is a failure now.
It is now, but it's still be. See, what I'm saying is it's a failure now, but it still could be continued. I mean, you can still rewrite it.
How?
Philadelphia.
How the hell can you rewrite him go? How the hell can you rewrite it when you don't have a point guard and Ben Simmons don't count?
That's for some reason, because to be honest, the way Philly has been playing, they might have to put Elton Brand in a bad position because when Joel Embiid goes to the bench or he doesn't play, Ben Simmons is a whole new player.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when Joel Embiid playing, Ben Simmons don't want to be Ben Simmons.
What the hell is Ben Simmons anyway? I don't understand.
He want to be Magic Johnson that can't shoot.
But at least Magic Johnson developed a jump shot.
Like I said, he want to be Magic Johnson who doesn't want to shoot. We talked about this last time.
Yeah, we did.
10 foot, 15 foot, it don't matter. If you get it,
We did talk about this last time. And I loved your blog, by the way. I loved your podcast, by the way. Let me just put that out there. I loved your podcast, by the way, because this is why I wanted you on the program. You and I think too much alike. Ben Simmons wants to be Magic Johnson, but Magic Johnson had a jump shot.
See, because the thing is, even though it's on a much lesser scale than professional, I was a big man for most of my younger days playing basketball, and then when I got to high school, I became a guard.
Right. So it's a different it's a different thing playing guard, and Ben Simmons is listed as a guard. I really don't know why. Why is he listed as a guard?
That's what he always played. He played that when he was over in overseas.
Didn't he? Talking with the playmaker here. NBA All-Star Game on tap this weekend. I want to bring another thing up. We spoke of Ben Simmons last time, and we just talked about the fact that you and I believe that the process in Philadelphia is a colossal failure. Why don't other people believe it? I mean, don't the playoff results kind of put that out there already?
Because you still have a talented Philadelphia team. And you want to see, because there's still time left in the season, and you still got to play, you want to see if they can pull it together. Problem is, Toronto, without Kawhi Leonard, is on the tear, even though they lost. Even though they lost to Brooklyn. That's understandable. When you win 15 in a row, you got to lose somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but I still think Toronto's the team to beat in the East. I'm not sold on Milwaukee. I'm definitely not sold on Philadelphia. My East finals go Toronto and Boston. I don't trust Milwaukee.
I trust Milwaukee because Giannis is on the next. When Stephen A. Smith did his interview with Michael Brogdon before they played the Bucks without Giannis had first of his run. Understandable.
Mm-hmm.
He revealed that Giannis had a look in his eye, and he knew when the next season comes, everybody better watch out because Giannis is trying to destroy people. That's why Giannis is playing the way he is playing. He is trying to destroy people.
Yeah. Yeah, Giannis actually has a jump shot now. Take a lesson, LeBron James. Oh, did I say that aloud?
By the way, shout out to those guys. They did not take a break before All-Star break. That game against Denver was amazing.
And Denver should have won it. I'm sorry. Denver should have won that game. But, yeah, I'll give him a shout for winning that game in overtime, 120 to 116. I listened to the tail end of it before I finally drifted off to sleep. But do you still like them coming out of the West? I don't.
No. Unless LeBron and AD want to show me they can beat the Clippers, no.
Unless LeBron shows me he actually wants to compete, I can't buy it. I just can't. I can't buy LeBron and the Lakers getting out of the second round of the Western Conference. If they get as far as the Western Conference Finals, they're going to get blown to bits. And the biggest reason they do not have a, wait for it, point guard.
When you say that, I gotta look at Rajon Rondo.
Really?
Like, dude, at one point in time, you was one of the best point guards in the league.
Yeah, you just mentioned the most important words in your sentence. At one point in time. At one point in time, he was the best point guard in the league, and then Derrick Rose showed up and crossed him over and broke his ankles. But I digress.
I won't say that. I don't know.
Okay, then Stephen Curry showed up.
His attitude don't tone down, and then his game toned down with it.
Then Stephen Curry showed up and broke his ankles and broke his spirit. Can I say that? But what has happened to Rajon Rondo? And why are the Lakers still depending on him?
Don't got nobody else. Darren Collison ain't coming out of retirement.
Zach Collison, here's a funny story for you.
I
Zach
don't know
Collison,
what he saw.
Darren Collison, I said Zach Collison. Darren Collison received an offer from the Lakers and from the Clippers and said, "Nah, I'm good." And he stayed retired.
What did he see?
You know something? I think he saw a lot. I think he saw that the state of the Lakers was not good.
What about the Clippers?
What about the Clippers?
The Clippers wanted him too. Why you say no to the Clippers?
He looked at the city of Los Angeles and said, "I'm good." Those are my thoughts. But we don't know why he said no to the Clippers. I have a theory. I think he said no to the Clippers because of Doc Rivers.
That's the case. Yeah, that turns out to be true. That's
yeah.
Weird.
And I'll ask you a question I asked you last time I had you on, which is right at the trade deadline. Why the hell did the Detroit Pistons get rid of Andre Drummond?
So for those of you who haven't heard my podcast, I still don't know to this day why. You look at both rosters, there's no reason why.
None.
You look at the coaches, there's no reason why.
None.
You look at the cities, there's no reason why.
None.
Look at the salary cap, there's no reason why.
None. I still don't know why.
I'm lost.
I still don't know why they pulled the trigger on that. I still don't know.
I will say this though, since we brought it straight there. So far, Houston and Mike D'Antoni, you doing good with small ball system. So far, I'm not gonna state that what I said because I'm waiting for the playoffs to see how this goes. So far, you're doing good, 5-2 with the small ball. Doing good so far.
Do you really trust that? I mean, it's February. Do you really trust that come May? I sure as hell don't.
Let me see. Hell no.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that for those of the folks that are in the cheap seats in the Palace of Auburn Hills?
I'm begging. Hell no to them. Hell no to Houston. Hell no, man. I'm so some college. Hell no to the Michigan Wolverines. I don't know what happened to them. Some conference play happened either.
I'll tell you what happened. One of my home teams beat them earlier this season. That's the Fighting Illini of Illinois. And they had no reason losing to Illinois.
You know, I'm gonna say the college talk. I'll come on the show next week.
Okay, we'll do that one. We'll do that one next week.
Because I'm doing the college basketball show next week, and y'all gonna stay tuned because I'm getting on a lot of stuff.
I may have to join you for that.
But, you know, it's doing good. It's going good so far for Houston so far.
So. You really?
But will it continue? That's the question.
No. May I repeat your answer? Hell no. If it hasn't happened for Houston already, when they had their best coach since Rudy Tomjanovich, and I'm talking about Kevin McHale, why the hell would you trust Mike D'Antoni now?
I would. But it was interesting to find out that Steve Nash had a talk with James Harden, so I don't know what was said.
I'll tell you exactly what was said. Steve Nash said, ha, 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 ha. I'll tell you exactly what he said. Am I right about what he said?
Steve Nash, no. Steve Nash, he was the orchestra of that small ball offense and down in Phoenix.
But Steve Nash is an actual point guard. There's your
Which
difference.
is another thing. I don't know why he thought of James. He said talk to Russell Westbrook. That's just me.
I don't trust either one of them. And I made a promise to you that when I'd have you on, I would close with a rumor I think that's going to be a reality. And the player that I gave you was Karl Anthony Towns. I think Karl Anthony Towns will end up in the Bay.
When that off season hit, because the funny thing, I won't be covering the off season. I have somebody gonna do that for me. I'll be paying attention.
If it happens, you know
I still come on Snowman in the morning and get my thoughts.
You know, if it happens, I'm getting you. You know, I'm getting you, right? They already got Andrew Wiggins. They got Andrew Wiggins for a song and D'Angelo Russell. They got a lot of cap space. They have draft capital. The best fit for Karl Anthony Towns is in the Bay.
Listen. I said this on the podcast. I want y'all to believe me when I say this. The worst record in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. Y'all don't understand how dangerous that is.
Yep.
I imagine the Golden State Warriors with a top 5 pick in the draft, knowing Klay Thompson and Steph Curry coming back.
Yep.
Y'all think the Western Control, but this year with the Clippers, wait till the Golden State Warriors come back healthy next year.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Can you repeat that, please? I've been saying it all season. Can you repeat that for me, please? I love that.
We know right now that the trouble in the West is the LA Clippers.
Yeah.
But the years to come,
it's going to be
Golden State Warriors going to be a problem.
It's going to be
They're going to have a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. This team went from, 5 straight NBA finals to having one of the worst seasons they had in a long time, and they can get a top 5 pick in the draft and not going to lose nobody?
Nope. They signed everybody last year. There's the point. They signed everybody.
Why do you think nobody out in San Francisco is panicking?
I'm not panicking. I've covered the Warriors
for
2 years. I've covered the Warriors since 2013. I'm fine. Okay? I'm good. When they come back, they're going to three-peat. I'm putting it out there.
Look, I'm like, the Golden State Warriors going to have a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. That's like the most dangerous thing ever.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun, but it's going to scare everybody else in the West, especially the Clippers, especially LeBron, and I'll go there another time. That's the playmaker, Darnell Solins, joining me to talk some hoops, and I put this rumor out there, and I'm going to continue to put it out there. The Golden State Warriors will be back next year. Just you watch. The dynasty ain't over. The dynasty is not over. Man, thanks for coming on. I truly appreciate it, my friend.
No problem. Hey, I'm taking Team LeBron to win the All-Star game. LeBron James winning MVP. I had Damian Lillard, but he got injured, so I had to pick somebody else.
I'll take Team Giannis, and I'll say Giannis wins the MVP. Just to be on the opposite side of you. We'll talk the results next week. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, no problem.
Rob Parker said something that I can't even say to an extent, but Rob Parker said something that just royally pissed me off. My response is next.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
Holy on snow!
where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
Okay. I talked about this on Friday with my buddy Michael Lyle and one of my good friends, Darnell Solins. Who the hell came up with these rules for this year's All-Star game?
The thing that kills me, they're doing it to me. They're doing it to try to increase viewership. But the thing about it, the names are so big, you're gonna get views from it regardless.
Mm-hmm. Why can't it be?
Killing me.
Why can't it be East and West again?
Right.
Can we just go back to East and West?
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. Particularly with the way Giannis picks, he's picking his best friends.
Yes. This is why I don't like the captains. This is exactly why I don't like the captains. Because remember, the first year it was LeBron and Steph. And to be perfectly honest, Steph got screwed out of a couple of great players to be on his team.
He did.
Steph got screwed, okay?
He did.
So why can't it be just East and West? I guess the East got tired of getting beat up by the West. Like, if you want to be the team, beat the team. Exactly. Why don't people get this concept?
Exactly. And,
now,
and to be fair, Giannis might have been thinking the same way you were thinking, because most of that team is from the Eastern Conference.
Yes. So it should be East and West anyway. They just need to call it East and West and be done. This year's All-Star Game is in Chicago, my hometown. Mm-hmm. It's in the United Center. Last time it was in Chicago, it graced old Chicago Stadium. That, of course, was 1988. Here are the rules as I understand them, and you're allowed to laugh at any given time that I try to explain this.
Okay.
Each quarter begins 0-0. Mm-hmm. So, if Team LeBron beats Team Giannis, say 30-25, then Team LeBron wins $100,000 for the charity of their choice.
Okay.
Then you reset the score. Yeah, you know this is going to sound crazy. Then you reset the score for quarter two, and if Giannis beats LeBron by that same score, then Team Giannis wins $100,000 for the charity of their choice. You reset the score again for quarter three, and remember, each of the first three periods are 12-minute quarters. You reset for period three, and if Team LeBron wins again, then they get $100,000 for their charity. Now, if the quarter ends in a tie, then you roll the money over to the next quarter, and whoever wins the quarter wins the whole pot for their charity.
Right.
Folks, I'm as tongue-tied as you are trying to decipher this mess. Now,
what happened to the day?
Here's the kicker. I didn't give you the best part. The first three quarters are 12-minute quarters. Okay? The fourth quarter is an untimed quarter. So they take the cumulative score of the first three periods, say Team LeBron leads 85-80. All Team LeBron would have to do to win the game, and this is where they honor Kobe, is tack on 24 points.
There you go.
So if Team LeBron scores, whoever scores 109, and this is the example that I was given, then that team would win the All-Star game. I have so many questions, which begin with, why the hell wouldn't you keep the running score anyway?
Right. Right. I don't get it. What has happened to the days of us having a traditional All-Star weekend? Now, if you want to do the slam dunk competition, the 3-point shootout, you can do a big man's competition. You can do a 1-on-1, which I would love to see between certain players.
I mean,
and then do the traditional All-Star game.
Bring back, you know something? Bring back the old timers game.
Yeah,
you got enough folks that bring back the old timers game. Okay, that was one of the features of the weekend.
I'm with you.
You play two halves, make it a running clock. You're good. Bring back the old timers game.
I'm with you.
This skills competition, for lack of a better term, to me, is boring.
It is.
I understand the slam dunk. I understand the three-point competition, and nothing will top 1988 when Michael Jordan won in front of his hometown fans. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's when Michael Jordan tore the roof off the joint.
Yep.
What has happened? And I plan to have Courtney Harden on later this week to discuss this same subject that we discussed a few years ago. What has happened to All-Star Weekend? What has happened to the luster that is All-Star Weekend?
Corporate, I believe, plays their hand in it, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And certain players not wanting to compete, or certain players dropping out after they said they would compete that you would want to see. I'm thinking that those are the two biggest factors on why this All-Star Weekend isn't what it used to be. And it's just a damn shame, because I can remember, man, like it was yesterday, Dominique, Spud, Jordan, all those for the slam dunk competition. But yet and still, we got LeBron James who won't do it.
You know what? I've always had a problem with that. I understand. Look, MJ put in his years as a slam dunk king. All right? Mm-hmm. He had nothing more to prove on that realm. Then, of course, he goes on and wins 6 championships. Mm-hmm. He had nothing left to prove. Why do you think LeBron James will not get in the slam dunk competition? What's up with that?
I don't know. Maybe not now in year 17, but back when it was year 9, year 10.
He could have easily participated.
Yep.
He could have easily participated.
Yep. And let's not forget this also. Jordan embarrassed himself in the 3-point competition.
Yeah, he did.
But at least he went out there and tried.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron can't try to slam dunk.
And you would think it would be one of his specialties.
Yeah.
You would think it would be one of his specialties. Here's a funny moment. Here's a funny moment, and I know a lot of LeBron fans are going to get on me about this, but you honor Kobe in the Staples Center. If you're the Lakers and Lakers fans, I'd be a little upset for this reason. You honor Kobe on a Friday night, a full house, a lot of folks watching outside, and then you go out and lay an egg against the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, that's a problem.
They laid a big fat egg against the Portland Trail Blazers. They allowed 127 points to the Portland Trail Blazers. And also, if you're a Lakers fan, I'd be worried about this. You're playing the worst team in the league in the Golden State Warriors. Why did you allow them to hang around on Saturday night?
Yeah.
Why did you allow them to They're not playing their best ball right now.
No. They're what? They're playing 500 ball the last 11, 12 games. They're playing 500 ball right now, so they're not looking very, very good.
and in many ways, neither are the Clippers. They got smashed by the Minnesota Timberwolves on Saturday night.
Oh yeah.
If you're playing the worst team in the league, and I go back to the Lakers, if you're playing the worst team in the league, and you allow them to hang 120 points on you, you win by 5 in San Francisco. But remember, this is the same Warriors team playing shorthanded that beat the Houston Rockets by 12 on Christmas Day.
Yep. Amen. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should be getting up. They played down to their competition, and they shouldn't.
And for me, that's always been an issue with LeBron. Playing down to his competition. I'm sorry, I have to speak it the way it is truthfully seen by my eyes. It just seems that with LeBron, even though he's in year 17, he plays down to his competition.
Yep.
He plays down to his competition. He's always, since he's been in the NBA, and we're talking about an incredible 17-year career, we're talking about since 2003, doesn't it seem to you, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth at all, but just follow me here. Doesn't it seem to you like he's playing down to his competition instead of up?
Yes. Yes.
So
I believe you.
So why has he not gotten the message yet that he has a bullseye on his back and has for 17 years?
He needs to, because a lot of these games, everybody keeps saying that LeBron is this, LeBron is that better than Jordan. But the thing that's killing LeBron, I think, is his thought process in these games. Mm-hmm. Instead of coming out and taking over and setting the tone for his team and getting AD in, and he's trying to pass too much. He's trying to defer too much.
Yeah.
AD is fine because you got to feed AD in the post. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But when you're trying to get other guys who's come up short this year, i.e. Kyle Kuzma,
mm-hmm.
you can't do that. You need to come out and be the tone setter. Get your own game going. Once you get your game going and your shot falling, then you go ahead and start facilitating to AD and other people. But get your game going first. And a lot of times out of LeBron, you don't see that.
You really don't. And he's so afraid, in my opinion, in a lot of games, he's so afraid to get his game going because he doesn't want to take away from others. And that part I understand. That's a lot of MJ, okay? But the difference is, Michael knew he can take over a game at any given time.
Yep. Exactly.
The biggest difference is Michael knew he can take the game over at any time. So,
and you're even seeing, and if you even look at, I don't mean to cut you off, but even if you look at LeBron, he's even being exploited defensively.
Yeah. He's been exploited defensively for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to go back to that chase down block in 2016 when he got Andre Iguodala. And I'm so glad the next year the Warriors got even, but that's a discussion for another time. Like, oh, that's the greatest defensive play I've seen in finals history. Please. I've seen much better, much earlier. Apparently, if that's the greatest defensive play, the chase down block by LeBron, if that is the greatest defensive play that you see in the NBA World Championship Series, obviously you haven't seen Larry Bird do his thing. Obviously you haven't seen Magic Johnson or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar do his thing. Obviously you haven't seen the bad boy Detroit Pistons do their thing. The Bulls, the Spurs. I'm going there. I'm going all the way there. Obviously you haven't seen those teams do their thing. Okay?
Yep. And even though they lost the other night, I still like the Clippers coming out of the West.
Yeah.
Because their strengths are, A, they got that dog in them, but B, look at what they hit you with.
Mm-hmm.
They hit you with the start, and then they bring Morris. They bring Lou Williams off the bench. Oh my goodness! Yeah. And while the Lakers are long and they're tall as a team, but
they're short on the bench.
Right. They're short on the bench. You can't count on Rondo anymore.
Nope.
I don't know what you might get something off Caruso, because he'll probably take Rondo's minutes now. But for the most part, I'm loving the Clippers right now. I'm Clippers Bucks. I'm calling it now.
You know something? Here is a move the Lakers should have made, and I said this on Friday's NBA podcast, and I'm saying it now, and I think you'll agree with me. The fact that the Lakers didn't even blink trying to get Andre Iguodala is an indictment against the Lakers.
I think it's more on an indictment on the fact that they're trying to keep their core, and they look at Danny Green, they look at Kyle Kuzma as part of their core. And you look at LeBron, you look at Kuz, you look at Danny Green, look at AD. That's what they want. Anybody else is up for trade. The problem is nobody else wants those players.
No. And I wouldn't either.
That's the problem.
And I wouldn't either.
That's the problem.
I wouldn't want them either. I mean, why would you even take that? Why would you even take that chance?
Nope.
Why would you even take that chance? And again, I say that the lack of moves by the Lakers, especially when Andre Iguodala has been available all season, is an indictment against the Lakers because it shows me they don't want to win because they had a chance to get a proven winner. Nothing against LeBron, nothing against AD, nothing against Rajon Rondo. But you had a chance to get a proven winner in Andre Iguodala. 3 championships in 5 seasons. He was in the best culture. He was in the best basketball culture for 8 years, and you didn't go after him. Why?
Another thing that's indicted that's kind of got me upset too. If you really, really wanted to trade Kyle Kuzma, they didn't showcase him at all.
Nope.
You could have showcased him within that second unit, but they didn't do it.
Nope. And they don't want to do it. My feeling is they don't want to do it. They want to hold on to him in case some even bigger trade bait or free agency bait comes around, i.e. Karl Anthony Towns. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people don't think will happen, but I think will. Karl Anthony Towns will end up in the Bay.
I think so too because now they have assets. Now they have assets to do it by getting rid of D'Angelo. So they have some assets. So I can see that happening. And Rob Pelinka.
They snatched Andrew Wiggins. The Warriors snatched Andrew Wiggins in a one-on-one trade for D'Angelo Russell. Now, Russell is busy, has been proving himself all year. I understand that. But the Warriors need some depth on that bench. And they're getting it. And they're also getting a lot of draft picks. Here is the biggest piece of the puzzle that I see happening this summer, and if I'm totally wrong, I am totally wrong. All these draft picks that the Warriors have available, I say they will still be able to get Karl Anthony Towns and not sacrifice one of them.
They might.
It may, if they cost anything for Golden State, it'll be the same kind of deal that the 49ers made for Jimmy Garoppolo. Give up a second-round pick and you get your franchise quarterback. They'll give up a second. The Warriors will give up a second-round pick, if not 2, and they'll get another franchise player that they can keep in their system for a good 4 to 5 years because they have their core. They have their core. They got Stephen Curry. They got Klay Thompson. They got Draymond Green. Okay? And Green is the only one that's been healthy all year long. My point is they can easily talk to Minnesota and say, look, we'll give you a few second-round picks if you give us Karl Anthony Towns because now you get Minnesota thinking young again. They already gave up Andrew Wiggins for a song, and I got nothing against D'Angelo Russell at all. Don't get me wrong. Nothing against D'Angelo Russell at all. Nothing against D'Angelo Russell at all. But at the same time, the Warriors are thinking 4 or 5 years down the road when they rule the roost again. I have a feeling this summer Karl Anthony Towns will come to San Francisco, and he won't even blink when they make their offer.
I can see that because it's a winning culture. And they'll have Andrew Wiggins there to be Harrison Barnes 2.0.
Yep.
So I can definitely see that. And
And you can see the Warriors rebuilding right in front of our eyes, and no one will say it. No one will say it because everybody that thinks they're an NBA fan, and you and I have spoken about this before, any and everybody that thinks they're an NBA fan are celebrating the fact that the Warriors are having an awful season in the midst of their dynasty. And they're still a dynasty because they've won 3 titles in 5 years. This is a horrible year because they lost Kevin Durant to free agency. You lose Klay Thompson in the World Championship Series. You lose Stephen Curry at the top of the season. I mean, what are you going to do? You're without 3 of your best players. And Kevin Durant hasn't played 1 minute this season, and I don't think he'll play 1 minute next season. I don't think he'll play for 2 years. And he's going to languish in Brooklyn. Unless that injury heals the way it is supposed to heal and the way he wants it to heal, because you're talking about one of the most gifted, athletic 7-footers with a consistent jump shot. Pay attention, LeBron. With a consistent jump shot that can knock it down from anywhere as well as post people up. that ACL injury is going to mess him up for 2 years, because if you look at all the reports and if you know anything about physiology, that MCL injury takes 2 years to heal. 2 years. So Klay Thompson is lost for this year. We all know that. He's probably going to be back in October, because the Warriors lost him in June. Okay? So when June comes around, it'll be 1 full year. You give him another 5 months on top of that, he'll be fine. Stephen Curry will be fine. Kevin Durant will not.
And he still won't be 100%. He might be maybe, 80, 85?
If that.
Yeah.
If that.
He won't be 100%. He won't be 100%.
And also,
he may have to adjust his game a little bit.
And also, who's to say Kyrie Irving will be there after this year? The way this year's going.
Look. I am a Spencer Dinwiddie fan. Dinwiddie, I'm sorry. And I am a big fan of his. He's doing it when Irving's not in there. He's been tasked with the job of running the team, and he's been doing a doggone good job and making a lot less money. So if Kyrie Irving can't come back, hey, so be it. He's been doing a great job. He's been doing a fantastic job. And if he can't come back or can't come back healthy, hey, you have somebody there who can run that point guard position.
Absolutely. I mean, the Nets are a mess. Even though they're competing for a playoff spot right now.
Huge mess.
They can
Huge mess.
Here's the point with the Nets. They can get to April, but this team won't get beyond April. Big problem.
Nah. Can you imagine if the Nets was over in the West? They would stand a chance coming out of the West.
They would
not one shot coming out of the West.
Not a chance at all. Not a chance at all. Not with the way this team's constructed.
And there's a whole lot of disappointing teams in the league this year. The Nets are so much disappointing. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, very disappointing given the talent on that team. Miami's gotten stronger. Toronto's holding back. And of course the Bucks. It's the Bucks. I mean, they're playing good basketball right now. That's the team to beat right now. That's the team to beat.
Well, you mentioned a team that I have not been sold on since they drafted Ben Simmons, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. I said earlier in the season that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid will cost Philadelphia more than enhance them. Ben Simmons can't make a jump shot. Joel Embiid's taking too many jump shots. He won't camp in the lane.
And another thing I don't understand about Joel Embiid, he be having the craziest injuries or reasons why he can't play.
Right.
It's like, stomach flu, stomach virus? Not saying that it's not devastating, but, bro, how old are you?
Yeah. Yeah, that can happen to anybody. Here's another move the Lakers should have made, and they didn't. Why didn't they go after Derrick Rose? Because the Lakers are in desperate need of a point guard right now. Rajon Rondo is not the answer.
There's a story out there, too, that I think Detroit wanted Caruso, was going to give him Rose. Lakers denied it.
I wonder who denied that deal.
I don't know. It could have been Pelinka. It could have been Buss. It could have been Bogle.
Pelinka.
I don't know.
Listen, it ain't Pelinka. You and I both know, and by that evil laugh, you already know the answer. Pelinka didn't deny that trade. Come on. Who the hell do you think denied that trade?
Yeah, we know it was.
Who the hell do you think, whose name ain't Rob Pelinka or Jeannie Buss, put the kibosh on that move?
It was Bron. It was Bron. And if he did put the kibosh on it, it was stupid. Derrick Rose is playing very, very well right now.
Yeah.
And he could have been a benefit to the Lakers. Inside outside game. Danny Green posting up for threes, him driving, penetrating, kicking back out to him, setting him up for the 3-point shot. But you can't do that now because he's gone. He's still at Detroit.
And two moves were there for Los Angeles to make. They could have gotten Derrick Rose, and they could have gotten Andre Iguodala. And I'm willing to bet you, there is one person and one person only who put the kibosh on both of those trades.
Ron.
Yep. And I have another rumor in my head of why. They're going after Ben Simmons.
Whoa!
I have this strange feeling because Ben Simmons is a part of Clutch Sports.
He is. They made it.
Yeah. Who do you think? Yeah, he may have signed an extension with Philadelphia. But who do you think? And nothing against the players, okay? This is just what I feel. Who do you think sniffing around trying to get Ben Simmons on his team?
Oh yeah.
No other team.
You know, Ron.
Yeah, no other team wants Ben Simmons for the simplest of fact. Ben Simmons, for the life of me, cannot hit a jump shot.
And I don't understand it either because I looked at him early in the season when he was over with Rico Hines doing those Rico Hines runs. He wasn't even trying to shoot then.
Nope. And he ain't trying to shoot now.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. You have to continue to develop your game, and for some reason, it's like even if you get a mid range, DeMar DeRozan's got a mid range. Even if you get a mid range game, it will serve you well. He don't even have that.
DeMar DeRozan's career is going to last a lot longer than Ben Simmons' career is because Ben Simmons, if he doesn't get traded to the Lakers within 2 years, Ben Simmons is finished.
I think he'll be regarded as a bust if something doesn't happen within the next couple of years. Because if he's not going to take it upon himself to develop that jumper, at least Giannis developed the jump shot.
Yep.
You see Giannis taking more outside shots now. That's what Ben Simmons needs to do. That's what Zion needs to do. And I don't understand why these players don't want to develop a jumper.
And I'm not too high on Zion either. I've never been high on Zion Williamson. You know what? We'll close with this point, and I want your thought on this before we close up shop here. Zion Williamson is playing out of position. He is playing way out of position. If he were to lose 40 pounds and really get in basketball shape and develop a jump shot, he could be a 2-guard. Easy. He doesn't have the handles to be a point guard. He doesn't have the jump shot to he can pose people up, because of his sheer size.
Right.
But people will figure that out in a heartbeat. Just ask Harrison Barnes.
He knows all about that. He knows all about getting figured out.
Just ask Harrison Barnes.
I've gone out and said I think Ja Morant's going to be a better rookie and a better overall player between the two because he won't have the weight issues that Zion's going to be facing with each and every year of his career, and particularly when he got drafted, because he got drafted, he's with the Pelicans. You know that he's good down in New Orleans now. All that interface and all that red and black gumbo.
And that's what everybody was afraid of. That's what everybody was afraid of when Zion got drafted. And why did it take this long? His weight is a problem.
Yep. And Ja may stay in the game maybe 10 more pounds of muscle, but outside of that, I think Ja's going to be a better player than Zion overall.
Ja is more developed than Zion is. Ja actually has a jump shot. Ja actually has court knowledge. Ja actually is willing to make his game better.
And then on the other end, despite his slender size, he does put effort on defense, too.
That he does. He's going to be a defensive dynamo when he really gets developed.
This is Snowman in the Morning. where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
All right, folks, welcome back, and glad to have you with us. I was scouring all around for some great guests to bring on the show, and one of them found me via Twitter. This fellow is a gym rat. He's a baseball rat, and he is a great voice he's a great voice in the state of Ohio. He calls games for the MAC for Learfield IMG, and I am pleased to welcome Scoop Miller to the program to talk some college basketball. How are you, my friend?
Hey, fantastic, Snowman. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a great time of the year. We're speeding toward March. We're speeding toward the NCAAs and championship weekend, and you cover a conference I have long loved, especially me being from Chicago. You got the Northern Illinois Huskies, and you being in Ohio, you got Miami University of Ohio. Let's give the fans a quick look at what MACtion is like, and there's a reason behind the word.
Well, I tell you what, you have to love the MAC year in, year out. You know, it's a mid-major here, as you mentioned. We have several Ohio schools. You have the Akron Zips, BG Falcons, Kent State, Ohio Bobcats, Miami, University of Toledo. Of course, as you mentioned, Northern Illinois there, who I covered a week ago for Learfield IMG. But this is a great conference. This year especially, it is unbelievably wide open. You know, there's no really true favorite as we're just a couple weeks away from the MAC tournament.
And speeding toward the MAC tournament, who have you seen so far that could, you know, take over the rest of the way and get one of those top seeds leading into the MAC tournament?
Well, I tell you what, I really like the Bowling Green Falcons. They really came in this year under the radar. They've had some past struggles, but you know, Coach Michael Huger's done a fantastic job there. Currently, they're sitting in first place, just a half game ahead of the Akron Zips, but they're 9-3. Just doing a lot of things well. You know, they've won 10 of their last 12 games, but they did run into a buzzsaw last night at Akron, lost a tough game to the Zips that really kind of tightened the MAC race up. But, you know, they're a team that really plays hard at the defensive end. They have a solid player in Justin Turner who just can hurt you in a multiple variety of ways. But that's a team I think could make some noise in the MAC tournament, which is held at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland just a couple weeks down the road.
Yes, indeed. Looking at the MAC East, Bowling Green, Akron, as you just mentioned. You mentioned Kent State and Buffalo, both at 6-5, and these two are going to, you know, these two are competing for what could be a very important spot in that tournament in Cleveland.
Yeah, it really is. And the way the MAC does their tournament, you know, there's 12 teams, everybody gets in, but the top 4 teams automatically get buys to Cleveland. So you have basically 4 playing games for seeds 5 through 12. And so you want to be, if you don't get one of those top 4 seeds, you definitely want one of the next 4 seeds where you have home advantage on basically the playing game to Cleveland. And as we all know, this year in college basketball, the home team has really had a significant advantage this season.
And looking at the MAC West, you talk about a home court advantage. Northern Illinois, my Huskies, 9-3. At home in the Convocation Center in DeKalb, Illinois. They lost their last one. They are 8-4 in conference, half game ahead of Ball State, 2 games ahead of Central Michigan, and then you got Western Michigan, Toledo, and Eastern Michigan bringing up the rear. How about those Huskies?
I tell you what, I really enjoyed covering the Huskies. It was a week ago Tuesday night. And they came in Toledo, were able to get a big road win at Toledo, a place that typically is tough to win at, Savage Arena there at UT. But, you know, Northern Illinois, they've won 7 of their last 10. You know, they did have a tough loss last night, but I think to Ball State, I believe, in a tight game. But, you know, they're very competitive. And they have the league's leading scorer, Eugene German, who is a phenomenal player. He led in high school he led the state of Indiana scoring consecutive years his junior and senior year. He played at Century 21 Charter School out of Gary, Indiana.
Yes, indeed.
But this kid can absolutely fill it. He's got NBA range. When he hit a step back in traffic over a 6'11" guy for Toledo the other night, from probably 28 feet away, really showed me not only about his range but his confidence, his courage. And the thing is, you try to go out there and defend him. He is so quick with the dribble. He can take it to the rack. He's just a tough guard. He's going to get his points regardless. You just really have to kind of contain his teammates, because I'm not sure you can really stop Eugene German the year he's had.
I've had a chance to see Eugene German a couple of times, 2014, 2015, when they faced Marquette Catholic both times, and Marquette Catholic had a great scorer at the time by the name of Ryan Fazekas. And you talk about Eugene German having a quick first step, unbelievable range, which has just gotten longer since he got to Northern Illinois. You want to talk about a steal of the conference? It is Eugene German.
Yeah, I think you're right. Again, go back to that step back. I mean, he elevated. I'm not sure his vertical leap is. It's pretty good, but he just elevated, went back, and it was effortlessly.
Yeah.
But he also can get into you defensively. That's what really impressed me. A lot of guys will play hard at the offensive end, but Eugene was one of those guys that kind of made things happen at the defensive end. They were able to turn Toledo over. I think Toledo had 11 turnovers at halftime, ended up with 19 that game. But that was a big part of that Northern Illinois offense from their defense. But certainly a fun team to watch, and one of many teams that certainly has to have aspirations of winning that MAC tournament and getting into the NCAA tournament this year.
And them having one of the top 4 seeds, as you mentioned, could be a top 2 seed if this pans out the way that it pans out. But looking at Northern Illinois and them having one of the top 4 seeds to get that bye is going to be huge when the tournament comes around to Cleveland.
Yeah, it really is. When you get to Cleveland, you want to have fresh legs. You want to have that bye game and not have to get that play in to get there. But right now, the way things look, I really like Bowling Green. I like Northern Illinois. I like Akron. I like Ball State. I think those are going to be the 4 teams that are going to slip into those byes, and the rest of it's really pretty much going to be a dogfight. And again, I think the MAC teams have won 73% of their home games this season. So you talk about the importance of trying to get a higher seed so you can at least have that home court advantage in that play-in game.
Talk about home court advantage. Look at Akron as we go back to the East. 12-2 at home. Bowling Green 11-1 at home. I mentioned Northern Illinois 9-3. But you want to talk about a team that's got a great home court record but hasn't done great on the road, and they're going to be in the middle of a dogfight. That is Central Michigan, 6-4 in the conference. 11-2 at home, but only 2-8 away from home.
Yeah, that's just hard to believe, that number right there. And that actually one of the losses for Central Michigan was last night. They lost a tough home game to Eastern Michigan by 3 last night. But you have to be able to somehow find a way to sneak some wins in the road, and that's where the Chippewas have really struggled, as you mentioned, 2-8. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, but that's a team that's awfully dangerous too. They have some solid players, but again, that's what's been so fun about the MAC this year. Any given night, if you don't bring your A game, you're going to be in trouble. Last night, Miami is a team that's really struggled in the MAC. In fact, they were down at OU on Saturday, 34-11, but they came in Toledo last night, a tough place to play. And they really dominated the first half, had a nice lead at halftime, but Toledo was able to come back and pull out a victory. But, that's one of those games where I think most people think, well, Toledo's at home, they're going to win against a Miami team that's really struggling. That's not how it works in the MAC, even though, they've been hurting to get wins there. Miami, they've lost 8 of their last 10, they probably led in that ball game for 30 minutes last night.
Yeah, let's take a look at another team in the East. Mentioned Kent State 6-5. Now let's look at Buffalo 6-5, 15-9 overall. So they have a chance to reach that watermark of 20 wins on the year. But it's really going to depend on how they do in the tournament. What do you see from them, from the University of Buffalo Bulls coming down the stretch?
Well, I think they're going to have to really rely on Javon Graves. You know, he's kind of been their go-to guy all season. You know, that's a team that's kind of fought the injury bug off and on this season, a team that's been banged up. But, you know, if you followed the MAC in recent years, you know Buffalo is one of those teams where you typically have to go through if you want to have success in the MAC tournament. So certainly nobody's going to discount the Bulls out right now. You know, they're a team that's won 6 of their last 10, so they're kind of starting to find their stride a little bit. And, you know, how they finish is going to be huge. You know, they've lost a few more home games this year than I think they're 8-5 at home this season. But, you know, that's a team that you certainly can't look past, and a team that's had a lot of success here, especially in the last, 10, 12 years in the MAC.
Let's look at the Akron Zips. They're a half game behind Bowling Green. They come in 8-3. Bowling Green 9-3. Akron 18-6 overall. They've won their last 2. What's kept them afloat? What's kept them in the race for one of the top 4?
Well, I tell you what, first of all, you know, they're a well-coached team. They have one of the top players in the league in Lauren Jackson. You know, right now, the Zips, they've won 9 of the last 12 games. So they're kind of really starting to find their stride there. They also have a guy named Tyler Cheese. He's a solid player, comes in scoring 16 points a game. You know, he's one of those guys that can hurt you in multiple ways. But, you know, that's a team where you really have to guard all 5 guys. It's kind of tough to load up on anybody. You know, so you have to really kind of play them balanced. It's hard to get into them. They handle the ball so well. They can hurt you in transition. Again, that's a team that's certainly awfully dangerous. Certainly, you know, they have to believe this could be the year that they get through and not only get to the NCAA tournament, but maybe have a little bit of success there on an NCAA tournament run.
Scoop Miller joining me to talk some college basketball. We took a look at the MAC, and he's going to pop in a little later, and we're going to take a look at another conference that's near and dear to my heart. We like to call it the Big Ten. He'll stop by later. Right now, we're going to pause for a break. Got some more stuff for you when we come back.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
I did not need to be told that.
where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program as we roll right along here. Don't forget to check out all the festivities and the podcast on my new website, snowmandigitalmedia.com, and the ID you need for Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram is SNW Digital Media. Now, the guest that I have on the line for you, I haven't had this young lady on the line in 2 years. And the last time I had her on, I teased her mercilessly for a good 20 minutes. But we had a great conversation. She and I are 2 of the busiest people in sports. And if you follow along with what she's doing, you'll understand. She lived out a dream I'm going to make a reality next year. She had a chance to cover the Super Bowl, and I'm going to do that next year in Tampa, and I intend to see her at Raymond James Stadium. The guest I have for you is Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson of Listen In with KNN, and she joins me right now. How are you, my dear? It's been a while.
Hi, I am great. I cannot believe it's been 2 years. Truly, where does time go?
Man, look, the last time we spoke, you were just getting started in covering Georgetown, and we had a great piece about that. And like I said, she was at the Super Bowl in Miami. You got to take me through that experience. How was that, covering the Super Bowl?
Oh, my gosh. So this is now my second Super Bowl. Atlanta was my first, and it was in Miami, of course. It was like 80 degrees on game day, no coat needed. And then we had a great game. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of the most thrilling experiences because I was down there for 8 days. So you're doing Radio Row, you're doing a bunch of interviews beforehand. Yep. You have stars and celebrities all around you. You're going to different events. You're meeting people like There's nothing like the Super Bowl. Now, I haven't been to NBA All-Star yet. I wanted to go this year, but I'm a bit too busy, so next year that's on my list when it's in Indy.
Yep.
But I've heard only NBA All-Star even comes close to the joy of Super Bowl. But Super Bowl is like the most watched game in the entire country, right? So, I mean, nothing compares to that. And it's a fun time. Like, I remember everything, and it's something I think I'll remember until I go down in the grave. Like, it's just one of those things.
When I first had this young lady on the show, it was 2013, and she called on a whim, folks. She called on a whim. We had a great conversation then. We've kept in touch. She's been one of my best friends, not just in broadcasting, but in life. It's wonderful to have you on the show. And I have to pay you this compliment. Your program, Listen In with KNN, A, is a favorite of mine. B, I'm a faithful listener.
Yay.
And C, you had me on that program last summer, and it was a blast. Tell me how you got that program started.
Sure. Such a great question. So Listen In with KNN is my baby, my brainchild.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a show I wanted to start it. I thought it was a great way to showcase my personality, showcase my interview skills, and then I really wanted to have a wide range of guests and kind of go outside of the box. And so I've had a lot of great guests come through. It's a fun podcast. We talk about hot topics in sports. We, of course, talk about their background, even touch on controversial issues. And so I think it's just something people can go home and listen to or start their day with. And again, just listen in with KNN, listen in with me, hear the conversation, comment your thoughts. And hopefully it's a podcast that everyone, no matter their background, no matter what sports they like, hopefully it's something they can get behind, rally behind. And I always say, I always want somebody to learn something and have fun. Those are my two goals, to learn something and have fun. So hopefully every podcast episode, I'm doing that job.
You are definitely doing those two things. And at the top of this year, I decided, I'm going to start recommending some podcasts to people aside of the podcast version of this show, which is an hour. The live show is 3 hours. And I fully recommend listening with KNN. She does have some great guests on there. And like I said, last summer, I had the opportunity to be on that program. And at the time we were talking NBA World Championship Series because I had correctly picked Golden State, but incorrectly picked Milwaukee. Toronto came out of nowhere, and not only did they win the East, they won the whole thing. And I showed them a lot of love on the program.
We the North.
Yeah, we the North. How did Mike Breen put it? We the North are now we the champions. And I absolutely love the way he put that. How's the show been going?
The show has been fantastic. I just had Santia Deck on. If people have been following women's football, she's with the newly formed Women's Football League Association, the first multi-million-dollar signee for that football league, which I thought was tremendous. And if you've been following this, you also know that Ja Rule bought the New York team in this league. So I think it's very promising. It's exciting. Of course, I think the biggest show I've had since we talked was when I had LeVar Ball on. And still to this day, that's been my top episode. It was a controversial episode, yes, because he called some people out. But we just had a good conversation, which was fantastic. I've had MLS stars on. I've had European Soccer League stars on. I had the USA Rugby coach on. I've had Mike Hill on, who, of course, congrats to him, is getting married to Miss Cynthia Daly on The Real Housewives. I mean, it's been so fun. I've had retired players, current players. So it's been everyone, and I really just try to have people on that are doing their thing in sports and just try to get them to share their story.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get that lineup also. I had some friends helping me get some stars for this show. So, folks, beginning in March, when we start covering the NCAA tournament, you'll see that star list kind of go up a couple of notches. But one star that I did have on the show, and we had a great conversation when I had my afternoon program, was Cliff Levingston, former two-time world champion with the Chicago Bulls. Started his career with with Detroit, I beg your pardon. Then he moved to Atlanta, and of course he finished his career with the Bulls. I tell you what, he had me cracking up laughing for a good 20 minutes with some of the questions I asked him.
The best interview.
And that it's one of my best. I'm going to put it on the website for Snowman Digital Media, and y'all need to check it out. But as soon as I asked him what was one of the worst arenas, and we're talking about the 80s and 90s when he played, as soon as I asked him one of the worst arenas where he didn't want to play, I kind of knew what his answer was, but as soon as he spat out Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio, I cracked up laughing.
Oh, hilarious!
It's like, and I know, and you've been through this. You kind of get the feeling you know what some of your guests' answers will be, but as soon as they spit them out, you just lose it. You just lose it. And you're like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, that's too funny. But that's what makes the interview fun.
Yeah.
And, it really gives your listeners a chance to dive in and feel a part of the conversation. But that's such a great answer.
It's like I kind of knew it would be Richfield Coliseum. Lord knows, I being from Chicago, saw Michael Jordan play his entire Chicago career. Didn't you get the feeling when you watched him play against the Cavaliers, he was trying to break their hearts on purpose, and he wound up doing it several times over?
Oh, yes. It was definitely a repeat and something that the Cavs may not forgive for.
May not forgive. I know so many Cavalier
definitely
fans.
Won't forgive
right,
for. There
exactly.
you go. Look, I saw burned jerseys and everything. So we know how that goes. Loyalty in the NBA.
I tease a lot of my Cavalier fans, and I told them, you know what the legacy of the Cavaliers is? And they look at me and they go, uh-oh, he's got a good one. I said, yeah, y'all remember a guy named Craig Elo? And they all start laughing. So what's it like, Ben? What's it like covering my first favorite college basketball team, the Georgetown Hoyas?
Yes, Hoya Saxa. Well, for me, it's a thrill and joy because, of course, I went to grad school at Georgetown.
Right.
And covering Georgetown now, I'm covering Georgetown football and basketball, and I actually will be at the women's game this Sunday when they face off against Villanova. But the men's team, it's been fun. Okay, we're in the Pat Ewing era.
Yes.
All right, we're talking about one and only Pat Ewing. All right, so it's
yes, we're talking about number 33 for Georgetown and for the New York. Patrick Ewing was my first favorite college player, but then Michael Jordan hit a jump shot, and I have been torn since that night in '82 when Jordan hit the game winner because I wanted to see Georgetown win.
Oh,
They did 2 years later, but at the same time, in that game in '82, who knew that we would see so many not only repeat All-Stars but Hall of Famers in that game? Of course, Michael Jordan. Of course, Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
James Worthy, who wound up being the most outstanding player in that game. James Worthy, I still feel to this day, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, is so underrated. But
he is. People don't talk about him enough. And you talk about, just greatness.
Yes. I mean, how can you not mention James Worthy, who a lot of people forget because of Michael Jordan's heroics? James Worthy was the most outstanding player in that game in '82. Yep.
And you talked about it. And this is why, though, when I'm covering that team, and again, having Pat at the helm, I just think of all that history and legacy that he brings with him. And I hope those players understand what they're getting with a guy like Pat. And I'll be honest with you, Georgetown has been great to cover, but of course, unfortunately, that whole sexual harassment, sexual assault case that hit the Georgetown Hoyas basketball team was rough, and I think it kind of changed things a bit. But I really think it showed Pat's leadership. Because he is a player's coach. And I think Pat's also doing a great job at starting to make sure that he recruits local talent, because that had been for a long time a criticism of Georgetown basketball, and it's something here in the DMV. So in the DMV area, we breed ball players, we like to say, be that football and basketball. So University of Maryland coach Mike Loxley just came out and said he's making recruiting local talent a priority of his. Mark Turgeon has said that with the Maryland Terrapins basketball team. And now I think having Pat say that and be that person, I think it's just promising. And, everybody's looking to him for that. But look, Georgetown Hoyas have a solid, good basketball team. Now, are they the old Big East as of late? No. All right. We're not going back to those good Big East games. But it's still fun to watch them and catch them down at Capital One Arena. Mac McClung, if you don't know that name, the Georgetown Hoyas, look him up. So again, young, bright, talented team. I think Pat has his work cut out for him. But it's definitely a fun time.
Capital One Arena will not be the Capitol Center when Patrick Ewing played there, and oh my gosh, I'm starting to get memories now. The battle he had with one Ralph Sampson, that was a nationally televised game. It was only supposed to be on cable, but then all of a sudden, two of the major stations, and like I said, I grew up in Chicago, two of the major stations wound up carrying that game on local television. And we're all sitting in the living room watching this, and we're going, wow. And you hear that place and how loud it is. I'm waiting for the day that Capital One Arena gets that loud when Patrick Ewing leads Georgetown back to prominence.
Me and you both. And look, those are the days we hope for.
Yes.
The Wizards play Capital One Arena. Wizards games are not loud, all right, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. Unless a really good team is in town. And
right.
I think that's what we've wanted. Look, when I grew up as a kid, when it was back then NCI Center, then it was Verizon Center, now it's Capital One Arena. But back when I was growing up there, I mean, we had some glory days there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you talk about the Mike Sweetneys of the world, and I mean, just so many great and talented players that came through that Georgetown era. Roy Hilbert, like just so many big names I can go back to that I remember growing up watching. And then remember when they were playing in McDonough Arena. So I'm talking about Capital One Arena, not for Georgetown, for Wizards games. But when they were playing those games in McDonough Arena, right, before they even got to Capital One Arena, and it was that tight, hot gym, that sweaty gym, standing room only. Oh, my gosh. Some of the best basketball games that I've seen. And that's, of course, where the women play now. And they used to always do at least one game there. They don't really do that now.
Yeah.
But just good memories. Good memories. But, I mean, Georgetown has a legacy of basketball, right? It's the Allen Iverson days, right? I mean, just the Dikembe Mutombo days, like just
Rejection Row, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning.
We can talk. So much greatness has come from that. You talked about Alonzo Mourning. Remember his son, Trey Mourning?
Yes.
Actually plays for the Georgetown Boys. So, I mean, just great basketball. But I think Pat is going to try to get them to that level. And because of his background, I think the donors are giving him more time to do that, because it takes time to rebuild a basketball program, folks. It does not happen overnight. And I think he's going to try to do that, because if Georgetown can get to any near type of level they used to be, I'm telling you, fun times in D.C. I'll tell you real quick. The funnest Georgetown games, and we haven't had them scheduled, but when Georgetown played Maryland, and it's kind of a rivalry they're trying to start, that was probably the last time I've heard a Capital One Arena Georgetown game that loud. I don't remember that game. Georgetown always played the Maryland Terrapins.
Yes.
So much fun, that crosstown rivalry.
Yeah.
That's the last time I heard a game like just with that much intensity.
I mean, the last time I saw Georgetown get to the Final Four, which of course was 2007, and it was March of 2007. And my dad was watching the game with me, and we both remember watching Patrick Ewing, me growing up and him watching it with me. When they beat, of all teams, North Carolina in the East Regional Final to get to the Final Four, both of us were crying, because we remember that championship game in New Orleans, and then they beat North Carolina in overtime to get to the Final Four, and we look at each other and we're going, it's the glory days again. Georgetown is in the Final Four, and we couldn't believe it. And
an overtime victory.
Yes, it was an overtime victory in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for them to get to the Final Four. I could sit and talk with Kelsey all day about Georgetown basketball, because, like I said, that was my first favorite team growing up. I mentioned, of course, Patrick Ewing started me on that road. Rejection Row with Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. Of course, John Thompson was the leader of that team for many, many years as the head coach. Then John Thompson Jr. And now it circles all the way back around to Patrick Ewing being the head coach. And I'm waiting for the old school Big East to come back again. You mentioned Georgetown and Villanova.
The Big East used to be the thing, right, in college basketball.
Wasn't it?
And of course now ACC pretty much owns college basketball.
Yep.
And the Big Ten, they make a run for it here and there, but the Big East, look, there are no times like the Big East times in college basketball. I mean, it's real gritty, nitty-gritty, tough, hard, core basketball. And that's what we want back.
I told my wife, one of the things I would love to do is to see all of my favorite arenas growing up, all of my favorite stadiums growing up. And unfortunately, I can't see the Capitol Center. That's gone. But I did get a chance one year to see the Spectrum in Philadelphia, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Because Villanova would host all their Big East games at the Spectrum. When it was Syracuse, when it was Georgetown, when it was Seton Hall, especially Georgetown. If Georgetown came to Philadelphia to play Villanova, they weren't playing at the small arena. They were playing at the Spectrum. They wanted a crowd for that game, and you put 18,000 people in there, and they're going to be on their feet for the entire game.
I mean, and that's what it's about. And like you said, I mean, again, I'm not saying the East basketball games are not fun. And I will say, Georgetown still gets a pretty good crowd when they face off against Syracuse. But it's not the same. It's not the same. And again, being from here and growing up and going to those games, I know what it was like. And so Pat needs time to get to that level.
Yes.
But I think, he's kind of getting there. And if we're talking about college basketball, I don't think they're getting enough notoriety. But the crosstown Maryland and what they've done this season, Mark Turgeon. And again, Maryland's that quiet but really good basketball team. Some are putting Maryland already in their Final Four. And let's also remember, it's been a while since Maryland has hoisted that national championship trophy. Because you go across the border and cross state, UVA had just won it, right? So we're hoping some of that trickles here down the Beltway. And probably most likely we'll go to Maryland, of course, before Georgetown this season. But it's a good time for college basketball here in the DMV.
It is a very good time. And it's also a very good time for y'all to check out Listen In with KNN wherever you listen to podcasts. I was a guest on there. I am a faithful listener. She puts out some great programs, and I want y'all to check it out. This is Kelsey Nicole Nelson joining me here on the program. I thank you so much for coming on, and I'm not going to wait 2 years to have you on. I got to have you back on soon, especially to talk some college hoops as we travel down the road to Atlanta.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Folks, we got more after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I told you guys he'd be back, and he's back now to talk some more college hoops as we take a look inside of the Big Ten. This is Scoop Miller, courtesy of Learfield Sports and the Buckeye Cable Sports Network. How are you, my friend?
Hey, fantastic. Great to be here.
All right. Let's take a look at the Big Ten, and I'm going to start with the surprise of the Big Ten, a team that is dear to my heart and still has a chance to win the darn thing. Who would have thunk it about the Fighting Illini of Illinois?
Yeah, what a tremendous job for Brad Underwood this year. These guys, they've really done a great job protecting home court. I think they're 12-3 right now at home, but they've won 7 of 10. I know they have a current 3-game losing streak, but they had won 7 in a row before that, and they've got a chance to really make some noise, make a dent in this NCAA tournament. There's a lot of people besides yourself back in Illinois certainly excited about this team.
Man, this is a young Illinois team that sent shockwaves throughout the Big Ten, and they did it early in the year when they knocked off Michigan.
Yeah, that certainly was a huge win there. Had to just do wonders for their confidence. Michigan has had so much success, got off to such a great start this year as well. But, the Big Ten, it's been so hard to win on the road. I think this year, going into last night, I think just over 80% of the games are won by the home team there in the Big Ten, so that's something that's certainly been huge. But Illinois has showed they've been able to win away from home as well. I think they have a 4-4 record on the road, which certainly for a Big Ten school is not bad. You'll probably take it most years.
Yeah, you will. They're 12-3 at the State Farm Center, 4-4 away from home. They've lost 3 in a row, but no one, and I'll say it again before we move on to our next point, I'll say it again, no one expected Illinois to make this much noise. 16-8, chance for 20 for the first time in 4 seasons, and a chance to really make some noise in the Big Ten tournament, and eventually the big dance in March.
Yeah, I think there's no question. I think in all fairness, they definitely came in under the radar this year, which might have helped them, get some key wins early. But right now, they're certainly on everybody's radar. You're not going to sneak up on Illinois. They're not going to sneak up on you right now. The fact that they've just been playing too consistently, just too well all years. They proven, this team is not a fluke. This team is a real deal, and certainly they have high aspirations and champagne like they should.
And one team that they beat, that's one game behind them, what a win they had over Wisconsin. They took it to them. And that's one of those wins that's a signature win for them. And for Wisconsin, they're 7-6 in the Big Ten, 14-10 overall. But to outline something you talked about not only this time but earlier in the program, Wisconsin's 11-1 at the Kohl Center. The problem is they're 3-6 on the road.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Wisconsin playing at home? I think since the turn of the century in 2000, their winning record at home there is over 87%, one of the tops in the nation. That's just incredible. I think everybody knows what a rowdy place that is to try to go play. So certainly, Wisconsin's done a great job this year, 11-1 as you mentioned at home. But the Big Ten in general as well has been just unbelievable. The fact that the home team has held service, 80% of the times this year. Even though I think the last couple of weeks we've seen the visitors break through more and more. We saw Purdue get a huge win at Michigan State, at Purdue here recently, and so forth. We've seen some. We've seen some. There just seems to be a lot of parity, I think, across the board. So. You have to win at home, and if you're good enough to pull games out on the road, you're going to put yourself in pretty favorable position come March Madness.
Well, unfortunately, two teams at the bottom of the Big Ten that are not in a favorable position, Nebraska and my other team in the Big Ten, my beloved Northwestern Wildcats, 1-11 in the conference. Is Chris Collins on the hot seat at NU?
Well, I tell you what, it could be. He's been there since the 2013-14 season, and I know they really had high aspirations as he took over. Of course, his dad was always my idol growing up. I'll never forget him hitting those two big free throws against the Russians in the '72 Olympics with a couple seconds left, only to lose on a very, very controversial finish.
Yeah.
One that's stuck in my craw probably as a fifth grader back then, but certainly, the last few years has not been, I think, where they were expecting to be. So, just really, right now, 1-11, in the Big Ten. In fact, they're 6-16 overall, and they've had some bad losses at home where they've been really blown out, 20-plus points, and certainly that's not going to sit well with alumni. But you'd love to see him turn it around there. But, right now, them and Nebraska certainly are the doormats of the Big Ten, no question about it.
Yeah, I would love to see Chris Collins turn it around. Duck Collins, of course, is whom he was referring to earlier, hit two big free throws against the Russians. He was also Michael Jordan's coach for the Bulls for 3 seasons, so there's a lot of Chicago lineage there. Let's look in your backyard at Ohio State, 5-7 in the conference, though they're 15-8 overall. Again, let's outline the point you talked about earlier: 11-2 at home, 3-5 on the road. That ain't good.
Yeah, right now Ohio State's kind of one of those bubble teams. There's going to be 4 teams that have to play right away in that Big Ten tournament, and certainly Nebraska and Northwestern are going to be 2 of them. But the other 2 spots are going to be filled probably by either Ohio State, Indiana, or Michigan, 2 of those 3 schools. But I do like Ohio State, not just because I've lived here in the Buckeye State for the last 30 years, but the fact that I think Chris Holtmann gets a lot out of his guys. They play with a lot of energy. They're awfully good at home there. The Schottenstein Center's been really good to them. They're 11-2 this year, but they've had their road woes just like a lot of other teams in the Big Ten. And they went through a stretch there where they just could not buy a win. But the one thing I liked about Ohio State, even through the losses, they typically compete game in, game out. And even in their losses, it's not like they rolled over and they got beat by 20-some points to somebody. These guys usually take it down the wire. They've had a tough time finishing. They've had a couple guys injured, have not played this season. They had another guy that stepped off for some medical reasons to get his kind of life in order. So they've got some holes to fill. They're not going to use that as an excuse, but they certainly have a thin bench. And I think that's really kind of made it tough on them, but you have to like the way those guys fight game in, game out. I think somehow they're going to find a way, kind of sneak into that middle tier of the Big Ten. Well, they'll get one bye in the Big Ten tournament, but they certainly won't get the two byes. Those spots, I think, are going to be reserved for, I'm guessing right now, Maryland, Penn State, Michigan State, and Illinois.
That's the four that's on top right now, and let's look at those top two, Maryland and Penn State. Maryland 20-4, Penn State 19-5. Each of those two teams coming into this week, they've won 7 consecutive games, and Maryland has really taken off at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, when you can string together 7 straight wins during the course of the Big Ten season, that's really speaking volumes. And, whoever thought we'd talk about Penn State and Maryland doing that this season here. But what a job Mark Turgeon's done with the Maryland Terrapins, and of course, the job Pat Chambers has done at Penn State there with the Nittany Lions. Those guys are 12-1 at home. Maryland's 14-0 at home, and they've had a lot of success. I really like the way those teams are playing. They've got some quality wins. They're certainly going to have an impressive resume when the NCAA tournament committee decides the brackets for March Madness. So I like those two right there. And then the rest of it kind of gets interesting. You have a Michigan State team that's been up and down and always a dangerous tournament out. And, of course, Iowa's had a tremendous season, and Illinois as well. So it's certainly going to be a dogfight, I think, for those top 4 spots. But right now I certainly like the Fighting Illini, I like the Spartans, and I like the Nittany Lions, and, of course, I like Maryland.
Those would be the top 4, and I'm really cheering for Illinois to get one of those top 4 seeds in the Big Ten tournament. Let's look at Rutgers. Rutgers 17-7, 8-5 in conference play, and again highlighting a point. It's become a theme here of our conversations today. 16-0 in New Jersey,
and 1-5 on the road.
Absolutely.
That's impressive. Anytime, I don't care who you are, but if you can hold service at home, especially in the Big Ten, that speaks volumes. So Rutgers certainly is a dangerous team. 17 wins on the season. Those guys have won. The Scarlet Knights have won 11 of the last 15 games, so they're starting to get more and more confidence, I think, as this Big Ten season unwinds. They just have to get that signature win on the road. I think if they can get that, I think that's really going to catapult them. They're certainly one of, I think, it's going to be 11 teams that make the NCAA tournament for the Big Ten.
How about Michigan? Do you think they have a shot at getting in the tournament? The season started so high. Of course, their new coach, Juwan Howard, former Michigan player, alumnus of Michigan, had them playing so well at the beginning of the season, and now you look at them, 5-7 within the conference. They're 14-9 overall. You expected some growing pains, but they were playing over their heads for a really big portion of the season.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Snowman. I think they were. There was so much hype with Juwan Howard taking over this year. You had so many, especially the Cali J students, but a lot of alumni. They were certainly all behind that, and they certainly still are. And those guys got out of the gates. They had some big wins early, and they really had momentum going their way. But they've kind of hit a standstill here, and they're one of those bubble teams. Right now they're really fighting to stay out of that opening round game there in the Big Ten tournament. They're hoping to at least get that one bye, try to sneak in as maybe the number 10 seed or so. But they certainly, that's no guarantee. They're going to have to somehow find a way to finish above Ohio State and Indiana, who both right now have identical 5-7 records in the Big Ten. So certainly, this is a fun time of year because all these games certainly mean a lot down the stretch here, and you're playing really, for your tournament success here. You want to set yourself up to not have to play in that opening round of that Big Ten tournament. So I think the Wolverines have their hands full, but certainly Juwan Howard knows that. He's got some good guys. They just really haven't quite meshed as I think they thought they would after such a great start.
It's the road to Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, the site of the Big Ten men's basketball tournament from March 11th through 15th. That man was Scoop Miller, giving you all the lowdowns and the highs of the Big Ten. He was on earlier to talk a little action on their road to the conference tournament that's held in Cleveland. Great to have you on, my friend. I certainly hope to have you on more as we take everybody to and through March Madness until a champion is crowned in Atlanta.
Well, Snowman, I always love talking hoops, and it's just you're right now you're living a dream. You get to go out and watch these games. You get paid to talk about them, and you see some quality basketball, and you see teams and players, fighting to continue to play on. Some of these college seniors were trying to get that W just to keep playing, not only to make the tournament, to keep going to the tournament. And you see guys leave it all out there on the floor each and every night. It doesn't get much better than that. And what a great seat in the house to have. But we've got some great basketball here in the Midwest. With the MAC right in our backyard and the Big Ten, and we've been treated some great games. Got a chance to see Bob Knight come back to Assembly Hall just recently. What a moment there in IU. Kind of a long time coming. It's been a tough ride here for the Hoosiers, but certainly seeing Bob Knight there brought back a lot of great memories for the fine people of Indiana.
Scoop Miller joining me to talk some college hoops. As mentioned, we take you to and through the championship weekend at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Snowman. Thanks for having me on.
I'm not done yet, folks. We got some more for you in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, we continue on with the program, and let's talk a little baseball, shall we? Been meaning to do this for a while, and I welcome the man in charge of Kicking It with Keeler. You can hear that on full press coverage as well as this show. This is Ricky Keeler, and he joins me right now. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm a little mad at the Houston Astros. Did you see that?
Can't say I blame them.
Did you see that so-called apology that they put out there? They called a press conference for it, and
I hope you're using apology in air quotes, but yes, it's an apology. It was awful. It was so predictable.
Yeah, it was.
They go the night before, and they like close off the facility. And we gotta have this big meeting. Like, we're gonna have to plan what we gotta say. And it's one thing to have Dusty Baker up there with Jim Crane, but who are the two players that happen to be on the podium with the owner and the manager? The two players, Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman, who had 6 days after the report to apologize, and they didn't do it.
They did.
So now they're going to apologize again? Like, you don't get a second chance to apologize again. Then they got a third chance in the clubhouse right afterwards.
And
it was such a joke. The closest thing was maybe Correa. Like, I thought, but even Correa's words were like,
scripted.
I get it. He at least mentioned the buzzer, which none of them were even mentioned.
Nope.
It's crazy. Look, baseball didn't, under their rulings, like, they could only fine Jim Crane so much. They couldn't do anything with the union. I get that. But they showed their warts. They can't compete with the union. The players can do whatever they want. It's going to be, sadly, up to the players to figure out what they want to do. And there's going to be a lot of brawls. There's going to be a lot of contention when Houston comes on the road this summer. And we'll just have to find out then. I mean, I'm not in favor of those stripping the title just because I can't take back something that exists. You just have to keep it in the forefront. Like, you know what? That title has a little bit to it. It's like a mental asterisk, if you will. But I don't think you can go down that rabbit hole.
No, you can. A lot of fans want to, especially the fan base of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I went in on them earlier in the week. Look, if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, you got your own issues. You can't complain about a title that you lost on your home field in 2017 and 2018, for that matter, against teams who cheated. And I have to use air quotes for that, even though everything's been proven. But if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, and we'll start here looking forward to 2020, you got your own issues, especially a failed trade with Jock Peterson and this fella named Clayton Kershaw that's still walking around.
To your point, especially on 17, the Dodgers lost 2 games at home that year, so
Yes.
it's really tough to give them benefit of the doubt. Now, I do feel bad. If there's a team I feel bad for, it's the Red Sox. And the reason I say that is whatever comes out of this investigation with them, and was supposed to be out this week, and it doesn't look like it is, nobody's going to believe the Red Sox. If they get off something light, people are going to say, no, you didn't look at it hard enough, and then people find out more about the code break with the Astros. That's besides the point. Looking at the Dodgers this year, I mean, they're going to find some way what to do with Peterson. I mean, he's not a bad player to have still on your roster. If they can get value from him, that's great. The one thing I think I question with the Dodgers, Brian, is their rotation. And it's not really Kershaw exactly. It's after Buehler. Okay, Kershaw has his good moments, has his bad moments. He's getting older. Yep. What is David Price going to do in the National League? That remains to be seen. They traded away Kenta Maeda, who was a valuable swingman for them. And their bullpen, Kenley Jansen's getting older, and he's not that reliable. We'll see what Blake Trinan does. We'll see what Gratterall does. Their lineup is great. To me, Yankees-Dodgers is the prohibitive World Series favorite matchup. But when that ever happens in baseball, there's always something that prevents that from happening. I feel like the Dodgers, I just don't know who's going to beat them in the National League, but the Dodgers, I think, are the more vulnerable team than the Yankees.
But the problem I have with the Dodgers and the Yankees, the Cubs, and a couple of others that fall into this line, and I said it earlier this week, the problem is not going to be the lineup. The problem is going to be the pitching. I think for the Yankees, Garrett Cole answers a lot of those questions. When you give him 9 years, $324 million, he's going to take the ball every 5th day. He's going to go 7 innings. It's almost not a guarantee. It's pretty much a guarantee to go 6. So it's going to save the bullpen in a given day, and you trust the Yankee bullpen more than you trust the Dodger bullpen. Yeah. We'll see what happens with James Paxton's injury. It sounds like he might be back in June. The Yankees don't really need him now. They need him down the line. But having Garrett Cole at least pushes Luis Severino back, and now he's healthy for a full year. Masahiro Tanaka is still, while he's not dominant, he's at least consistent. So you have 4 guys at least that you can depend upon, because Paxton showed a lot in the playoffs, especially in Game 5 last year. I think the Yankees have more depth in their rotation than the Dodgers do, because outside of Walker Buehler, they have question marks. I think Price will be better in the National League, but he still is a guy that he's coming off an injury too. So I think there's more starting pitching questions and bullpen questions on the West Coast than the East Coast with the Yankees. Very, very true with that. And speaking of the East Coast, let's go to the Beltway and look at the world champion Washington Nationals. Only person they lost was Anthony Rendon. And if you look at this Washington lineup, they got stronger as the season got longer. And their pitching rotation, A, is pretty much set, and B, so is their bullpen. And it was the bullpen that rode to the rescue, especially starting with the division series.
Yeah, absolutely. Their bullpen, I think, actually, when you look at it, Brian, they got better. They kept they still have Sean Doolittle. They kept Daniel Hudson. They added Will Harris into the mix, who outside of Game 7 was arguably the Astros' best reliever last year in the postseason. So their bullpen is strong. Their starting rotation is still pretty good with Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin. So and Anibal Sanchez is still there. So you know what you're going to get out of him. The offense, yes, you missed Anthony Rendon. We'll have to see what Carter Kieboom does. He's likely going to be the third baseman, you would think, coming out of camp, but you never know. Then they have his dribble Cabrera. Maybe they can split time. They still have Juan Soto a year older, Victor Robles a year older. The guy I'm interested to seeing what the coaching staff does with is Starlin Castro. Because remember the Nats a couple of years ago brought in Daniel Murphy to swing a little bit from the time at the Mets and had a breakout year. I don't know if Starlin Castro had a breakout year, but he can kind of blend in with this lineup. You got Trey Turner. Eric Thames is a good platoon option with Ryan Zimmerman. So their lineup is pretty deep, even though I think they're going to miss Rendon in spots, but they're still right up there in with the favorites in the National League. Yeah, they have to be the favorites now. No one expected them to win the World Championship. Talking with Ricky Keeler of Kicking It with Keeler on, you can hear that on FullPressCoverage.com. And I'll tell you what, man, the Nationals, you just said it a moment ago, the Nationals look like the team to beat in the National League. Is there a team or teams outside of the Dodgers
that can challenge them. And remember, the Nationals re-signed Howie Kendrick, who was the Division Series hero, and in essence, the World Series hero after we broke the tie in Game 7.
Well, I'll give you two teams, and I think they're both in the same division as Washington. Because I think the NL East is going to be pretty good. I mean, I like the Reds in the Central. I don't know if to win the Central, but I can't really pick them to contend for a title just yet.
Mm-hmm.
The Braves would be one. I like the Braves. We'll see what Cole Hamels' injury is. Hopefully he's not out too long with the shoulder. But they added Will Smith to help their bullpen. They still have a really good young rotation. Another year for Soroka, another year for Fried. They have Fulton Newich. They added Felix Hernandez. We'll see what he gives them now going to the National League, kind of a new uniform. We'll see what that does for him. That lineup is still deep. They added Marcelo Ozuna. So when you go 1 through 5 in that lineup, it's still very good. And really, they're trying to come off that Game 5 first inning, which I think is still going. But we'll see what happens if the Braves if the Braves can turn that around. The other team kind of...
It just seemed... folks, people know I love Bugs Bunny and I love Looney Tunes. There's a cartoon called Baseball Bugs that before Bugs Bunny rode to the rescue, it was just a conga line around the bases. That's what it felt like in Game 5 in Atlanta, didn't it?
It did. I think I was out for a part of that game. I look at my scoreboard on my phone. I'm like, wait, it's 10-0. I said, is that a glitch or something? I'm like, is it really 10-0?
I was out also. And I looked at my phone, and I said, "What the hell?" And my wife says, "What?" I said, "It's 10-0 in the first inning." And my wife tells me she's not a big baseball fan. She's not. Okay, she's not a fan of baseball at all. But when I said 10-0 in the first inning, she grabbed my phone, took a look at it, and went, "Wow, somebody's a little pissed off." I'm like, "Yeah, you think 10 runs in the first inning?"
I still say the Braves should have gave them their parking money back, but that's besides the point.
They should have gave them their money for admission back. That was a game that was played. Wait a minute. That was a game that was played in the afternoon.
I give them the parking back.
Right. I'll give you that. That was a game that if you go back to the 80s, that's one of those that you play in the afternoons. Everybody is still at work, and then everybody comes home and goes, "What the hell happened?" That's one of those kind of games.
If you're in your car going to work then and it's 5-0, do you just turn around and go home? Like, do you even go back?
Yes. 5-0 without an out. Without an out.
True.
That's one of those. You're on the way to the ballpark. Hey, we can catch it while it's in motion, and then you hear a run-scoring single, another run-scoring single, a run-scoring double, 5-0 before they get an out. The hell with that. I'm turning around and I'm going home.
That was the debate, if you remember. Should Jack Flaherty have even pitched that game? Once you get a 10-0, do you rest Jack Flaherty for Game 1 of the TS? Which you can argue the Cardinals got all their runs out of the way because they got swept the next series, so they ran out of offense.
They did. They ran all their offense against Atlanta, and then they run into the Nationals, who threw 4 aces at them. And the Cardinals like, okay, our season's over. I think they pretty much knew that coming out of St. Louis and going to Washington. Like, we're going to go home empty-handed, but we got a lot farther than a lot of teams expected us to. Here's a question, and I got to go to the National League Central. I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago,
right?
But I can't stand the Cubs. For some reason, I cannot stand. I'm a Southsider by heart, by nature, and to my heart. You can answer this question for me now, so I can get a summer's worth of fatigue out of the way. Are they going to have a chance to compete this year?
Mainly because that division's so wide open. I don't really know who to pick in that division, to be honest, because St. Louis really didn't make any huge moves this winter to go. They're the prohibitive favorite. Milwaukee's lost players more than gained players. Yeah. And the question is, do you buy into the Reds? The Reds were the more active team this winter. They got Castellanos. They got Moustakas. They're going to get Suarez back at some point from injury. They have a good rotation. Their bullpen is up in the air, but they have some intriguing arms there. So despite the Cubs not doing anything except adding Jason Kipnis this week, which isn't bad for their bench, we'll see what happens there. They're
bench.
Still right in the mix.
You said the key word, bench. Okay.
Well, you gotta have depth. You gotta have depth. I
know that.
In terms of their infield, you gotta have depth there. The key is, can David Ross be their manager and not their best friend? If David Ross actually does a great job as first year's manager, the Cubs will be right there. If he does, then maybe it'll be. Was it a Joe Madden problem? I don't know. His voice maybe got a little tired in that clubhouse. There's still a lot of talent there.
Did you hear some of his press conferences at the tail end of his run? A little tired?
He repeats the same stuff. We know that. But if the Cubs go in there, if they win 84, 85 games, they're right there. That's the nature of the Central. So they could do nothing and still be in the hunt.
So it'll take 85 to win the Central? You think it'll take 85 to win the Central?
It might take, honestly, Brian, I think high 80s, maybe 90, 91 wins the Central, because I don't really know who's breaking out of the pack out of those four teams.
I'm picking St. Louis.
They would be right there, but I don't trust that's the thing. The Cardinals, they do enough, but I think losing Ozuna is going to hurt a little more than they think.
Sure.
Like, I was surprised they didn't make more of an effort to bring him back.
Right.
What is Matt Carpenter going to be? He struggled a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where the Cardinals are. Does Dakota Hudson take the next step forward? Does Miles Michaelis stay a good number 2? What's left of Wainwright? Can Carlos Martinez close consistently? Because we know he's up and down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions on that Cardinals team.
True. And I say this playfully, I just don't want the Cubs to win. Because there are some Cub fans that I know in my hometown that are insufferable. I'm being playful, but I shared this story during the summer, and I'm going to share it now. The year that they won, 2016, that night, November 2nd, I didn't come out the house. I was afraid to come out of the house because it was Game 7. I knew what was going on. I'm the only White Sox fan on my block. Everybody else were Cub fans. And I didn't go to sleep. I didn't get to sleep because they were up celebrating until 2 o'clock in the morning, and here I am in a fetal position in my bed.
Nice. But I mean, you gotta like the moves your White Sox made. I mean, at least they're going to be competitive.
I love what they did, and I'm going to make a call and say wild card. I'm going to say
not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
I could see it. I mean, I like Lucas Giolito a lot.
Yes.
I wrote about him when I was writing at District on Deck, the national side on Fanside. So I followed a lot of his career. But I like the steps he made. At least maybe a change of scenery helped him. They add Keuchel. They add Gio Gonzalez, who I think is a good back-end guy. And that lineup is really, really good.
Yeah,
they add Mazar. We'll see what Luis Robert does. Grandal's there now. Encarnacion. So a lot of parrots on the south side, which is going to be pretty cool. I think we're going to see a lot of flying parrots.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot. We're going to see a lot of walking parrots, and I love it. We're going to see a lot of walking parrots.
Hey, I love the parrot. That's my guy right there. But you got Moncada looking like he's breaking out. I mean, what's Cleveland? I think that's the question. Minnesota right now looks like they're the favorite in the Central.
Yes.
But you have to figure out the Indians just find pitchers out of nowhere, and they can get rid of Kluber and probably still have a good starting rotation.
Yeah.
So it's really between the White Sox and Indians for second.
Yeah, I see that too. How about the American League West? How does that go?
I got to think it's the Astros right now. Even though they made no moves this winter, they still have Verlander. Their lineup is still really good. If they can get over that initial hump early on, if they get off to a hot start,
it's
the
over.
thing is, and now you add it's over. You add Urquidy, you have for a full year now, so that helps their rotation a little bit. And I think the second place team, I want to say the Angels, Brian, but they have no pitching. They really have no. Could they have taken some of Mike Trout's money and given it to like a pitcher or something?
Yes,
I feel bad for Mike Trout. They got Rendon. What's Shohei Ohtani? Is he a pitcher? He's a hitter? I don't know. 1 week, he's going to be a pitcher in May, but a hitter in April. They really don't have a solution with the Angels right now.
No.
So I don't know how much Madden's going to help. Oakland's still pretty good, but there's always a ceiling with the A's, and they got to rely a lot on young guys like A.J. Puck and Jesus Luzardo, who are very talented.
Yeah.
But when you're top of the guys, Manaea, who had a shortened year last year because of injury, your rotation's a little in doubt, and then Melvin's going to use a lot of the bullpen. But the A's always seem to hang around sometimes.
Yeah. Can Seattle be competitive, at least for a little while? Can the Mariners actually be competitive?
Do you mean competitive in the regular season or competitive at the trade deadline, since Dipoto loves to trade everybody?
All right, let me flip a coin. Both.
Competitive at the trade deadline. Honestly, Brian, I think Texas is better. If you're going to go for a surprise in the West, I go the Rangers. Their rotation actually wasn't that bad last year.
Right.
With Lance Lynn and a couple of guys there. Their lineup is still pretty good. They lost Nazar in that trade, but the Rangers still have Joey Gallo healthy. They're going to a new ballpark. It's not going to be as hot all the time, so maybe they'll pitch a little bit better. You look at that team, Todd Frazier's in there as a veteran. They have Kluber now in the mix there. If he's healthy, maybe he gets a boost. So honestly, I would take the Rangers before I'd take Seattle.
Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts in my head about
Seattle's young, though. I'm interested. The Mariners have a lot of young pieces. I just don't know how far they like.
Yeah, I don't know how far. I don't know how fast they can put them together. That's one of my
They're still
questions.
like 2-3. They're 3 years away in the West, especially with Houston going to going.
Yeah, it's Houston's division to lose. That's how I look at it. Ricky Keeler of Kicking It with Keeler joining the Snowman here, and I want to thank you for coming on, and I'd love to have you on to help do some baseball previews.
I'm happy to be on, Snowman. Thanks for having me.
We got more for you after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the program. This is hour number 2. Thank you to Damian Adams, who I had on the show once before. I'm going to have him on next week. And don't forget to follow all of the programming put on by yours truly by giving a follow to SNW Digital Media. That's SNW Digital Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Every once in a while I'm busy going about my day, something comes across my screen, something comes across my desk that friends will send me. One friend in particular, and I've sent some things to him and told him to go for it. Well, the friend is Cole Johnson, and he sent me something with the message, throwing the lob on the fast break. Send it in like Shaq, my man. Now, anyone who knows me knows I love Shaquille O'Neal. Loved him as a player. He's an absolute goofball. Love that big man. Especially love the way he played center. I read the caption, which says, "The Warriors dynasty was fraudulent. It was all because of KD." Well, that got my spider senses going right then and there. And then I listened to the clip. This is courtesy, and I'm going to let you all hear a few seconds of it before I provide a response. This is courtesy of Undisputed on FS1, and the fellow who is making the comment is a friend of mine, Rob Parker, part of The Odd Couple, one of the shows I actually like. Rob Parker said this.
Read my lips. The Warriors dynasty, whatever you want to call it, has been officially eliminated once Kevin Durant left. It's not happening. I do not see the Warriors winning anything anytime soon. And it has nothing to do. You can talk about adding all the players, about the lottery picks and Wiggins. It's about Steph and Clay. It's about those guys.
Whatever?
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it, that whole dynasty that everybody talks about is totally fraudulent.
Oh, God.
The only reason they had
a dynasty?
No, the only reason they had a dynasty is because KD joined the team. Steph, Clay, and Draymond Green, they won one championship. That was without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. That's the one that they won. Iguodala was the MVP, not Steph, not Clay. Hold on. And then they played Cleveland, and were the first team, that was the 73 and 9 team.
73 games.
That's right,
Wow.
regular
Pretty
season.
good.
But they choked down the NBA Finals. The first team in the history of the NBA to choke down a 3-1 lead. They lost 2 of the 3 games at home.
Yeah.
They lost 3 games in a row. They hadn't lost 3 games in a row all year. It's a fraudulent dynasty. Unless Kevin Durant's coming back, they're not winning again. Stop the romanticizing of Steph and Clay. Let me give you Steph's. You ready? Listen.
Well, to say the least, Rob Parker's cool, okay? I had him on my show. But when I heard that, and y'all know I'm a Golden State Warrior fan, that pissed me off. And it leads to this.
It's time to go.
Let's go in, shall we? The Warriors dynasty was fraudulent, according to Rob Parker. The Warriors dynasty was because of KD, according to Rob Parker. Mr. Parker, I guess you didn't realize that Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green were drafted by the Warriors in the process of their rebuild from 2009 to 2012. I guess you don't realize that Steph and Klay and Draymond are their core players. I guess you don't realize that it wasn't the Warriors who made the call for KD to come to them. It was KD who made the call to the Warriors. I guess you don't realize that the Golden State Warriors have something LeBron's never had in 17 years. It's called a winning culture. I guess you don't realize that Stephen Curry, the current Warrior, be injured as he may be, was a unanimous most valuable player and the only one in history to this juncture. I guess you don't realize that Stephen Klay knocked down 402 threes. I guess you don't realize that the Cleveland Cavaliers, to borrow from Stephen A. Smith, were granted an enormous stimulus package in 2016. I guess you don't realize that the NBA has had it in for the Golden State Warriors. Okay, I'm going a little far. I guess you don't realize that the Cleveland Cavaliers were granted a stimulus package all the way from heaven in 2016. Everybody wants to say, oh, the Cavaliers erased a 3-1 deficit. They had help. Don't you realize that they had help? They had help from the NBA. They had help from LeBron James, who engineered the whole damn thing by dry snitching on Draymond Green for kicking him in the you-know-where when it was an accidental kick in the first place, and second, LeBron tried to walk over him. If you want to follow the letter to the law, then the finals appearance in 2016 should not have happened, because if you follow the letter of the law, according to the NBA, Draymond Green should have been suspended in the Western Conference Finals, not the NBA World Championship Series. And I laid it out as a conspiracy theory that because of that stimulus package, that's why Cleveland was able to get back in the series, because if Draymond Green plays in Game 5 of that World Championship Series, it's a walk-off. It's a 5-game conquest. It's a 5-game wipeout. because every game in that series because every game up to that juncture, the first 4 games were decided by double digits. The first 2 were wipeouts in Oakland. Cleveland wiped out the Warriors by 30 points in Game 3. And then the Warriors won by 11 in Game 4, 108-97. Matter of fact, the first 6 games were decided by double digits in that 2016 World Championship Series. I guess you don't realize, Mr. Parker, that in order for the Warriors to get back to the World Championship Series, they had to erase a 3-1 deficit of their own. And that was against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had Kevin Durant at the time. If there was any kind of dynasty, it should have been formed in Oklahoma City. And to be more to the point, it should have been formed in Seattle. I have said it on this program, and I will continue to say it for as long as I'm alive. The Oklahoma City Thunder should not exist. It should still be the Seattle Supersonics, because the Seattle Supersonics had a 41-year history unfairly taken away from them by Clay Bennett and David Stern. Rest in peace, David Stern. I love you, but for that I don't. The Seattle Supersonics should still be in operation. David Stern could have forked over the money needed to get a new arena in Seattle and place it anywhere he wanted to. He had the cash. It should not have even gotten political. It should not have even gone to that point. If you want a dynasty, it should have started in Seattle. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, all that should have been in Seattle, not Oklahoma City. Can you imagine the rivalry the Seattle Supersonics and the Golden State Warriors would have had? It would have been a rivalry that would have been groundbreaking. Beyond groundbreaking. I mean, who expected the Golden State Warriors to come out of nowhere, Mr. Parker? And I guess you forgot the fact that the Golden State Warriors came out of nowhere, Mr. Parker, after losing a 7-game series against the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round in 2014, Mr. Parker, to rise to power, win 67 games, and win the World Championship on the Cavaliers' floor. Yeah. I guess you forgot all of that. I guess you forgot those facts. I guess you forgot the fact that the biggest rival, aside of the Cleveland Cavaliers, to this Warriors dynasty was the Houston Rockets. The Rockets had 4 shots at the Warriors. 4 of them. 4 shots at the Warriors, and they failed each and every time. A 5-game conquest in the Western Conference Finals in 2016, a 5-game in 2015. I beg your pardon, a 5-game win in the first round in 2016, a 7-game win in the Western Conference Finals in 2018, and a 6-game conquest in the Western Conference semifinals in 2019. And oh, by the way, Stephen Curry went off for 33 points in the second half of Game 6, the walk-off victory in Houston, Texas. But I guess you forgot all of that, didn't you, Mr. Parker? Mr. Parker, allow me to remind you that this dynasty is still in motion. This is an off year. Dynasties have had off years. Ask the Boston Celtics. Ask the Los Angeles Lakers, who lost to Houston in 5 games in 1986. Did anyone call that dynasty over? No. The Boston Celtics had an 8-year run as world champions, and then they lost. Did anybody call their dynasty over? No. They're still regarded as one because of the number of championships they have won, the number of championships the Los Angeles Lakers have won, 17 and 16 if you're counting, and this Golden State Warriors team is still young. They still have the best ownership group in the business. They still have the best set of players in the league. It's not LeBron's league. It's not Russell's league. It's not Russell Westbrook. It's not James Harden's league. No, this league in current time belongs to the Splash Brothers, and as big of a decision as Kevin Durant made to join the Golden State Warriors, he made the decision to leave them. Oh, by the way, Mr. Parker, have you figured out the fact that Kevin Durant's not playing this year, or the possible fact that Kevin Durant may not play next year because of a serious injury, or have you forgotten the fact that injury happened because he was giving himself to the Golden State Warriors? The Kevin Durant move to Golden State enhanced them, the same way that Dennis Rodman going to Chicago enhanced the Bulls, the same way that James Worthy, a draft pick, mind the way, enhanced the Lakers, the same way that Bill Walton, who was drafted by the Portland Trailblazers enhanced the Boston Celtics in 1986, the same way, my friend, that having Sean Elliott return to the San Antonio Spurs after a stint with the Detroit Pistons enhanced the San Antonio Spurs in their dynastic run. And oh, by the way, have you figured out the fact that the Spurs never put 3 consecutive championships together, and yet they are called a dynasty for their run? Have you ever figured out the fact that the Lakers, who have three-peated on a couple of occasions, didn't have their dynasty called dead or fraudulent because of some of the players they had in their organization, nor have the Spurs, the Bulls, the Celtics, or anybody else that had a long run of championship excellence. In other words, what I'm saying to you, my friend, is that championship excellence depends on the parts of a team. You understand that? As much as of a LeBron hater that you are, and I give you credit for that, you have to remember, you can't hate Steph and the Warriors, you can't hate Steph and Clay, you can't hate the Splash Brothers because they are part of a team. Just as Tim Duncan and David Robinson were, just as Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were, just as Magic Johnson, Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy were, just as Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish were. And oh, by the way, there was a trade that the Boston Celtics made in 1984 that brought them the final piece to their championship puzzle after being swept the year before by the Milwaukee Bucks. That piece's name was Dennis Johnson. He was traded to them courtesy of the Phoenix Suns. But I guess you forgot all of that, did you, Mr. Parker? Now, that's me.
Go!
I gotta take a break after all of that.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
I did not need to be told that.
Where true sports talk lives.
Excellent. Can't wait.
All right, folks. There's a young man that I have not had on the show in over a week. And now that the season has concluded, I get to have him on again because we kind of missed a connection. Mike DeBate joins me. And Mike, have you got your ears on, my friend?
Always for you, my friend. I've got my ears on. I'm locked and loaded and ready to go. Been a long time since we've spoken, but all good, and I always love coming on. Thank you for having me on, Brian.
Man, I love having you on. This is Mike DeBate of Full Press Coverage. Of course, he joins me to talk NFL. The season is concluded. Chiefs and the 49ers. Let's start with the world champion Chiefs. They 21 points in 6 minutes. Nothing but praise for both of these teams, and one hell of a Super Bowl that they put on.
Yeah, tremendous game for both teams, if you think about it. When you look at it, 49ers definitely had their chances. The Chiefs, credit them, come from tip your cap to both teams. Patrick Mahomes definitely showed that he is among, if not atop of the elite quarterbacks in this league. I can't say enough about the game that he had. Damian Williams, as a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, was phenomenal in this game. You can make the argument that he could have been considered for the MVP along with Mahomes. I don't think they necessarily made a bad decision by giving it to Patrick, but Williams, I thought, had a tremendous game as well. Got to credit the Kansas City defense. They made stops when they needed to. I thought on the San Francisco side, I thought they played very well on defense, well enough to win this. Just unfortunately, it came down to Kansas City making more plays than San Francisco did in the latter part of the game. So a great Super Bowl, great victory for the Chiefs. But if you're a Niners fan, fear not. This team's going to be back, and they're going to be ready to go in 2020.
And don't be surprised. And I said this right after the game. You know, I went to bed, and my wife said, did the 49ers win? I said, nope, the Chiefs did. And she looked at me, and she had that smile, and before I could say anything, she spits out, don't be surprised if these two have a repeat performance in 2020 when we're in Tampa. And I say the same thing. Don't be surprised if these two go at it again 1 year from now.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. You take a look at the way these two teams are constituted, the way they're built. They have the better part of their cores coming back. Very few off-season questions for either one of these teams. So you look at it, they're primed for another repeat performance. Of course, me being up here in New England, I hope that one other player is playing maybe a game in Tampa. Let's make the you can't make the assumption that guy's coming back. I love to believe he will be, but in actuality, no. I think you look at these two teams, and right now they have to be the favorites in their two conferences simply because of the fact that they're the two hottest teams right now. And like I said, there are very few off-season questions for the Chiefs and for the 49ers. So if they can keep that core intact, and by all accounts they should, these two teams seem to be on a collision course once again. Let's take a look inside of the rumor mill, and I heard something that got my ears peaked, and it got my attention peaked. It concerns wide receiver A.J. Green. Of course, now with the Cincinnati Bengals, there's a rumor flying around right now that A.J. Green may change his Bengals stripes for Gold Rush stripes. There's a lot of people saying right now that the favorite to land A.J. Green resides in the Bay. Can you imagine how dangerous that receiver core will be if A.J. Green does indeed wind up signing with San Francisco? It will be, and that's a very interesting spot for him. I did hear the same rumors, and I've heard a lot of rumblings about, of course, up here in New England, a lot of people seem to think that he's rumored to the Patriots an awful lot. To tell you the truth, I really don't see that. I don't think A.J. is the type of receiver that would come up here and be able to succeed right off the bat. I think the 49ers offense is tailor-made for him. I think the way that they play and the types of routes that they run in San Francisco makes it a little bit easier for a guy like A.J. Green to come in and assimilate very quickly. To me, I think that's a great spot for him. You pair him right alongside a guy like Deebo Samuel, all of a sudden you're taking a look at a guy that can run the backfield, have those jet sweep motions, and then a pure take the top off the defense receiver in A.J. Green, even a guy that can drop back and play the slot a little bit. So this could be a very interesting fit for them, especially if you believe the rumors that Emmanuel Sanders could go either way at this point. That there's rumors that he may move on. There's rumors that he loves San Francisco and would love to stick around. I personally, as someone that's followed the Niners the last few years, I think that's a great spot for Emmanuel, and I think he can help to build that young wide receiver core that they have in San Francisco. But A.J. Green would be an interesting fit for them. The one thing that you want to be careful of if you're a Niners fan or if you're a part of the Niners organization is the injury history and the difficulties that he's had staying on the field. If he can figure out a way to get that taken care of, then that's definitely one of the more formidable wide receivers in the league, and he can definitely help a team, especially a team like the 49ers. He may even put them over the top. And don't forget, folks, not only did the 49ers draft Deebo Samuel, they drafted another receiver, out of Baylor in Jalen Hurd, who spent this year on IR. And can you imagine that core, should A.J. Green sign with San Francisco and keep Emmanuel Sanders, and all indications are by this Niner fan and insider that Emmanuel Sanders will stay in San Francisco. Of course, Deebo Samuel, that's 3, and then you put a 4th receiver out there in Jalen Hurd. Then, of course, you got to add George Kittle to the mix. You want to talk about some weaponry. Garoppolo, as it stands right now, and we don't know where A.J. Green is going to land,
As it stands right now, with Jalen Hurd coming back from injury and the possibility of A.J. Green coming to the Bay, this passing game is going to get another serious upgrade.
Amazing. And you think about the running game that San Francisco already employs by putting these guys alongside a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo being able to utilize those weapons. It only adds another dimension to his game. I thought Jimmy played a serviceable game in the Super Bowl. I think he's getting a lot of undue criticism for the job that he did in the second half. I think a lot of that was breakdowns in communication. I think a lot of it was play calling. These things needed to be shored up. Unfortunately, for the 49ers, it just didn't end up working out. And a lot of that has to be credited to the Kansas City defense, too, who I think played their best game of the season. And I think that's why they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But getting back to Green, putting him in a San Francisco uniform does change the dimension. And you mentioned Jalen Hurd. Hurd and Samuel were two guys that I scouted pretty heavily last year in doing my draft prep and analysis going into the 2019 draft. I liked them for the Patriots. I really thought that either one of those players, as a matter of fact, in a couple of different mocks that I did, I mocked Samuel going to the Patriots in one and Hurd going in the other. So these two guys being a part of that offense with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, again, studied under the greatest of all time. He studied under Tom Brady. So that type of synergy, if he can find it with that wide receiver core, again, that only makes them that much more dangerous in trying to defend that NFC title.
And what's going to be even more dangerous for Jimmy Garoppolo, and you said this earlier in the season. In fact, you said it before Week 17 when they went to Seattle and won the NFC West, which you and I both correctly predicted, by the way. We still don't know the ceiling of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's coming back from an absolutely horrific injury. And except for one game this year, late in the fourth quarter, and it was against Carolina, Jimmy Garoppolo took every single snap under center.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And you learned a lot about Jimmy's durability this year. And I think that, if you're a Niners fan, that really gives you a lot of, I guess the best way to, a lot of optimism in terms of what that means for this coming season. To me, that was one of the biggest question marks on Jimmy was, will he be durable enough to make it through an entire season? Unfortunately, and as much as I like Jimmy an awful lot, that was a question mark that I had. He really hadn't had an opportunity to prove that he could stay healthy. In the season where he took over for Tom Brady here in New England for a few games, he did end up missing the last two games because of injury. And a lot of people were wondering if injuries played into the fact that the Patriots chose to move on from Tom Brady and move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and keep Tom Brady at the time. Obviously, that ended up being the decision that was the right one for both teams. But with Jimmy this year showing that he can play a full 16-game season deep into the playoffs, play well into February, that's something that is a very encouraging sign. I think a lot of the growth that you're going to see in Jimmy this year is decision-making, maybe a little bit more poise in the pocket, maybe a little less reluctance to throw the football away. I think you're going to see a lot of that. Maybe I'm taking a few more sacks. These are types of things that you see quarterbacks develop as they start to come into their own. This is going to be a big year for Jim, and I think he's up to the challenge.
I think he's up to the challenge also. And that 49er defense, you can't give them enough credit, even though it just seems like they ran out of gas, in the Super Bowl with Kansas City coming on like they did, and we both talked about them. But this San Francisco team, especially their defense, played way over their heads and out of their minds and got them to Miami. This defense is strong enough to get them to Tampa next year. And with the way this unit played, there were many questions going into the season, and you and I posed a lot of them on this program about how they will mesh together. I think we got our answer.
We definitely did. And if there's one thing, if you're a Niners fan, that going into, and it's their ability to be able to make plays and shut teams down. For 3 quarters, they held the most prolific and the most productive quarterback really to look like an average mere mortal at times. And that's not an easy thing to do, not the way Mahomes played in this postseason. So when you look at what they can do with the front seven of San Francisco, the linebacking core, and the way that the secondary has shown that they're capable of playing, this is a defense that is set to compete for a good number of years. if I'm the Niners, if I'm looking for any help, it probably would be in the secondary. I'd like to see them maybe beef up the safety position a little bit, get a little more depth at that position. I think that's something that can add a little more pop and a little more strength to their lineup. But that front seven is an absolute monster. The four-man rush that they put on in the Super Bowl was a thing of beauty to watch. It really was. And had the 49ers been able to make a couple of offensive plays, this could have been a different outcome, and we might have been having a parade in San Francisco rather than Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. But I wouldn't worry too much about the defense for the 49ers. I think they're poised to make another run and another deep run in the playoffs in 2020.
And every other team's fan base in the NFC West has gotten a hold of me, and they're saying, "Oh, you guys got lucky." This ain't luck, folks. This is a team that grew up right before our eyes. And I go back to the conversation we had before the Super Bowl. In fact, Super Bowl week, someone asked me if you were to pick a game that identified the 49ers season, and I hate saying this to another fan base which have become friends of mine. If you were to pick a game that identifies the 49ers season and how far over the curve they were, you got to look at that game in New Orleans.
Absolutely. I think that really is the game that solidified their claim on the NFC. That's the game that I watched because I've been high on New Orleans pretty much all season long. I'll be honest with you. New Orleans was my Super Bowl pick preseason in 2019. I predicted the New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints Super Bowl. I thought they were going to face the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, but I believed that the New Orleans Saints were going to ride a hot hand in Drew Brees, and in my opinion, a pretty good defense to be able to get to that point. The 49ers being able to win, especially in the fashion that they won in a shootout, knowing that the defense was not going to be able to stop a prolific offense like the Saints, but they could match them point for point. To me, that proved any type of doubt that you had about the 49ers and their ability to score points. That game put that to rest. I looked at the 49ers in a whole new light after that. I had really become a believer all season long because of the information you had been giving me and, turning me on to this team and what they could do offensively. But this was at another level, and it really showed me that this was a championship caliber team. And from that point on, I looked at them as such, as they were the team to beat in the NFC, and they proved to be that.
And after my first appearance in the preseason on Locked On Patriots, when we talked about if there are any teams that could unseat the Patriots, we briefly talked about if there are any teams that could surprise out of the NFC, and the first team that was in my head was San Francisco. And a lot of people thought I was crazy when I said that in August, But at the same time, as the season went on, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, eventually 8-0 before they lost their first game in a gutty effort against the Seattle Seahawks at Levi's Stadium. And remember, the first time the 49ers and the Seahawks hooked up, the 49ers were really beat up, and they were minus George Kittle, who was out for 2 games with a significant injury. They were minus Kyle Juszczyk, who was out with a significant injury. When the playoffs came around, the 49ers were healthy. That game in Seattle got them the rest they needed. And I think it gave the 49ers a lot of confidence going forward into 2020 that, yes, they can go into Seattle and beat them there just like they did the last Sunday in December.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the postseason, most of the postseason gave them the confidence that they need to propel forward. Look, when you beat teams that are supposed to beat you, it really is it's a big feather in your cap. Now, granted, San Francisco 49ers were the top dog. They knew that going into this postseason. However, there were still a lot of doubters. People looked at it, and I don't want to say that, and this is not how I feel in the least, but sometimes people will look at you as a paper number 1 seed or a de facto number 1 seed and someone that you feel, well, there are teams out there that are a little bit deeper, that have a little bit more pedigree, that have a little bit more experience, that can beat you in the postseason. That means nothing when you take a look at what these teams are capable of doing in the postseason. The hot teams are the ones that ride the strong play of their strongest unit, and the San Francisco 49ers did that. They rode their running game, they rode their defense all the way to the Super Bowl. They got I thought they got pretty decent production out of their passing game in the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people will probably fight me on that. I stand by it. I don't think they played as poorly as a lot of people are making that out to be. What you saw, again, were breakdowns in communication, I think breakdowns in some of the play calling, and just running into a defense in Kansas City that really played into its own at the best possible time. So they did run into a perfect storm in the Super Bowl, but again, the growth that they showed getting to that level, to me, really solidified their place in the NFL. And they walked away from that game knowing they could win it. That's a big, big key for a team that wants to build on a strong Super Bowl championship type year that the San Francisco 49ers had. They walked away from that game knowing that it could have been theirs. There's no worse feeling in the world than going to a game like that and coming away and saying we had absolutely no shot. When you know that you're close and you know that you have a shot, it only makes you that much more hungry to get back and to prove to everyone that year one was not a fluke. I believe that's exactly what you're going to see out of the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Which brings me to the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champions, their first since Super Bowl IV. And the way that they played in the second half of the season and in the second half of the Super Bowl. Hell, let's look at the second half of all three of their playoff wins. Down by 10-plus points, 3 separate games. Division round against Houston, AFC title against Tennessee, Super Bowl against San Francisco, and they were able to win all 3 by double digits. It just shows you the depth of the Kansas City Chiefs. Give them all the credit and all the praise in the world. They definitely earned this world championship.
Absolutely. A team that falls down double digits to teams like the Houston Texans, the Tennessee Titans, and the eventual NFC champion, the San Francisco 49ers, you fall down to that level. It's amazing that you're able to come back from one of those games, let alone all 3. It also goes to show you how prolific that offense can be once the pilot is lit, and that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes did. He turned it up exactly when he needed to do that. He got very good play from his wide receiver core. Can't say enough about Travis Kelce and the job that he's done in the postseason, and also Damian Williams again in the Super Bowl, I think played a tremendous game. So between those 3 factors, plus a defense that played a lot better than people gave it credit for all year long. I think that the Kansas City defense was vastly underrated all season long. You talk about the job that Chris Jones did and the defensive tackle position. He was a huge force in being able to help contain the San Francisco running game just when the Kansas City Chiefs needed him to do that. Frank Clark stepped up very big. Tyrann Mathieu had a tremendous season and I think was one of the real game changers when it came to the Kansas City defense this year. But the guy I give a ton of credit to is Steve Spagnuolo. He came in and changed that whole complexity, that whole attitude of Kansas City. He made them an aggressive defense. He made them a defense that was ball hawking. They went after it. They weren't afraid to pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. They didn't play it conservatively as they did in 2018. 2019 was all about putting the pedal to the metal and trying to beat teams at their own game. You saw the Kansas City Chiefs do that. They peaked at the right time, and that's why they were Super Bowl champions. And again, hats off to them because they had a tremendous postseason.
They absolutely had a tremendous postseason, and this will put a wrap up for us on the 2019 NFL season, and it'll also kick open the door to the NFL season for 2020. Of course, we're going to be covering it all off season. We'll begin with free agency, who goes where, and there are some very interesting names in free agency. When I have him back next week, I have some quarterback questions, but we'll save that for next week. He is Mike DeBake, the man in charge of Locked On Patriots on the Locked On Podcast Network, and one of the men in charge of Full Press coverage. He joins me every week to talk NFL. Always a good time to have you on, my friend.
Always a pleasure to join you, my friend. 2019 was great. I wish it could have been a little bit happier of an ending for you, but if it's any consolation, I think 2020 might be just as bright, if not brighter, on the horizon. But I enjoyed covering the season with you this year. We put a wrap on it. On to 2020, buddy. Can't wait.
On to 2020, my friend. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great day.
Speaking of putting a wrap, that'll put a wrap on this one, as I thank you for joining me for this edition of the program. I want you all to have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move, and always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope y'all are too. Until next time.